Beautiful.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Chat with a Hat, episode 19. I have a very special guest with me this weekend. As we are having this little lull between rounds, because, how good is a 12-round calendar with about 6 weeks between races? I have to introduce to you one of my good friends from across the ditch, from the land of the long white cloud and the Cuzzy Bro himself from Motorsport Kiwi, Jayden Aben. How you going, buddy?
Oh, bloody good. Thanks, David. Yeah. Take it away, mate. I'm excited to be on your show. It's something I've really been enjoying. So yeah, really appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and yeah, definitely looking forward to talking some good motorsport.
Yeah, thanks for that, mate. Now, we actually met each other a couple of years ago when, out of the blue, Pukekohe announced that thanks for coming, but don't come back. Like so late, they just pulled the pin on the track, and I went, "Oh, well, if I don't go now, I'm never going because there won't be anywhere to go at Pukekohe." So I flew over, and we'd already been chatting,
Yep.
which we're going to get to very shortly, with one of the most incredible fan initiatives that the sport's ever seen that was the most successful. And that's when we actually caught up in real world, face to face, over at backside trackside.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, it was an awesome like opportunity to meet each other and spend a weekend, just soaking in the racing, and especially for you, you've never been to Pukekohe or a New Zealand round, so it was quite cool to see you come over and soak up the Kiwi kind of culture, and it seemed like we had a lot of fun, and
Oh,
like
dude, I
we
soaked it up.
yeah. Oh, you
We
had
had
an
so
absolute
much
ball, mate.
fun. We had so
Absolutely.
much fun, in fact, that I got stranded at the circuit and I couldn't even make it back to my hotel, which was in Papatowito.
Yeah. So probably, yeah, what, 45-minute drive from the track.
45 minutes, and I had no car. I'd been dropped off at the circuit. My ride shot back to Auckland during the middle of the day. Forgot to tell me that they were leaving. And so ended up crashing couch surfing with one of your mates, part of your crew, down in
Yep.
Pukekohe for the night. And geez, did we have fun that night.
Oh, it sounded like a real adventure. Like it was something that I was almost expecting, like the thing, that's real about you, you managed to find a lot of new people, and you're always meeting new people, and I was not surprised that you ended up, couch surfing at their place, and yeah, it was fantastic to just hear the stories, and you're
Oh,
soaking
it
up,
was
yeah, the
mad,
Kiwi
mate.
culture.
Went to one house and partied there. Then we went to another house and we locked the keys in the first house, and we had to go back and break into that house. And then we had to go back to the other house, and then we're drinking homemade bourbon. And then, oh, it was just one of those nights that, because it went so wrong, it went so right. Like the partying with
Exactly.
all
It's
your mates, like your crew are awesome. You're the best bunch of crew over there.
we're very lucky, we're all very passionate, and we like a good laugh. So, it definitely it's a good little vibe, and when you've got all those kind of people around, and the banter and everything's just great. And and I thought straight away, just seeing, I knew a bit about you just from the Erebus Army, and been able to see how much of a character you were. So I knew you'd fit right in, and it was just a great experience. I'm so glad that you did come over and soak it up. As yeah, we definitely made some memories, and it was just great to yeah, meet in person, and just
Oh, the
banter
best
about
memory
the
was that
sport.
chopper ride with your Top
Oh,
Gun pilot. That was the
mate.
best chopper ride I've ever had. I've done heaps, but he was dive bombing the circuit, chucking sky skids, full banking. It was awesome.
Oh, unbelievable, eh? We're watching these people before us, and we're going, oh, that looks pretty cruisy. Like that looks like we're just going to be puttering around. And then, yeah, our pilot just seemed to put it on for us. And geez, when you're looking out the window directly at the ground, it's like, geez, this is a bit of fun. This is pretty
Yeah, he's doing
intense. And
full bank rolling and stuff. And we were just
oh,
laughing and cheering in the background, just going, do it again, do it again. And he's gone,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, he was just loving life that day, and I think he gave us a special a special ride, which was just fantastic, and be able to see Pukekohe from those angles, it's definitely experience that
The only
priceless,
angle we didn't
priceless.
get was upside down, and we almost got there.
Yeah, exactly right. Surely that's going to be Taupo, mate, next year. We'll be
I hope
doing that.
so. I hope so. I'm keen. I'm coming. Oh yeah, I've got my
Oh,
stuff locked up. I don't know exactly which date they're in, but I've already booked some accommodation there on that speculated calendar, that slot. So
yeah,
it seems like it might be the week before Anzac Day.
yeah,
Over there,
yeah. It's
because
looking.
you guys have got a rule. There's no racing anywhere in Anzac Day in upper Pukekohe like that. Auckland Council, you're not allowed to go racing on Anzac Day. That's why they had to pull it last year.
Yeah, well, that's it, and it's a shame because we did it back in 2014 at Pukekohe. They did it as a 4-day race weekend, and they started on Thursday, went to Sunday, and the Friday was Anzac Day.
Ah,
And
so there's the gap day.
yeah. So, well, no, we still raced on Anzac Day on the Friday. We did qualifying in the first race. It was a 4-race weekend that
Oh,
weekend.
right.
It was 4 sprints, and Jason Bright won it. Coming off winning the Jason Richards Trophy the following year, the former year.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience though. Like we were all on the hill, and they did a moment of silence. When they were doing like the last post, and like doing all the traditions. And I tell you what, there wasn't a bird chirping. It was when they did the silence. It was amazing to see. Just thousands and thousands of people, and pit lane and everything just dead silent. Pukekohe and motorsport's known for its noise, and when you're in that kind of environment and it's just dead silent, it was just it was a
It's
chilling
eerie, isn't
experience.
it? It's
Yeah,
really
very much
powerful
so. But
stuff. It's really powerful.
and I think it's a great idea to kind of tee it up with that because like with supercars, it's quite the Anzac. There's a lot of Kiwis, a lot of Australians,
Yep.
working together. So I think it's a great opportunity to be able to kind of
Do
tee it up
Anzac
as
round.
well. Yeah, exactly. And people can get into it with tribute liveries like
Yep.
Walkinshaw HRT did in the past. And
Erebus have
I
done
love that
some
kind of
with the
stuff.
army. We do it with the council
Exactly.
round and stuff. We have our army liveries.
Exactly. And I think it's just fantastic, when you can involve the forces and have that kind of show that kind of respect and collaboration with them. And I'd love to see that in the future. And for us, you wouldn't want to go too much later over here. It loves to rain kind of late
Yeah.
April, early May. So,
Yep.
I think, if it's not going to be Anzac, I'd love it to be near the start of the season or near the end. Because we've had it a few times where the boys have come over and it's been pretty horrid. And yeah, as a spectator, and especially at Pukekohe, it wasn't great. There wasn't much shelter. So when it
No.
was raining, everyone was just cramming in at the alcohol tents, and other than that, you were just getting soaked. So it wasn't a great experience. So I'm hoping. I know that Tony is going to do a fantastic job with Taupo putting on an event.
Mm.
So I've got a lot of faith, even if it is there is a bit of rain over that weekend. We're going to have an absolute awesome one. He does a fantastic job. I remember going to the New Zealand Grand Prix in 2021 when Shane raced, Shane and Andre and all that, and he put on an event and a half at Hampton Downs. So like it was mega. There was so much to do. There was great support categories. He really put on a show, and he really looked after the fans. So I think going to Taupo is going to be a great experience for the fans, at the track, and it's going to be something we all should look forward to.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely keen, and I'm going to catch up with your crew again. And
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
and
it's a date. It's a date. We're
I
definitely doing
think
that, mate.
everyone's got over their hangovers by now. So uh, yeah, we can. It's about 3 hours out of Auckland, though. Which way do I fly in? Which is best? Go to Wellington or go to Auckland and then get there?
I would probably go Auckland.
Yeah.
It'd probably be the best way to go and just head on south. At least there's some good motorways now to be able to
Yeah.
get down. It's going to be a little bit average with the traffic, I think.
Oh, I think it's traffic's
There's
going to be horrendous, to be frank.
exactly, and that's kind of the talk. And I'm hoping they can kind of organise something that'll make it a bit more free flow. But at this stage, I think it wouldn't hurt, if there's anyone out there that has a hot dog cart or anything like that to set up next to the entries and exits of the circuit, because you'll probably make a coin or two before and after the racing that weekend. So
There you
we'll see
go.
what happens. But I think all of us would rather sit in traffic for a while than not have any racing over here. So
I agree. I agree.
it's a
It's a
small price to pay
small
for
price.
having the entertainment and the circus over the side of the pond.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's next year. So let's look backwards now. So we've been looking forwards. Let's look backwards now, and I want to introduce you as most people who have heard of you or your work would have known you as the Boost Wildcard petition
Yeah,
instigator back in the day when Peter Adderton was putting together a wildcard car for Bathurst for Greg Murphy and Richie Stanaway as his co-driver with the Erebus team a couple of years ago, right when COVID decided to put us all in our lounge rooms and lock us up in our bedrooms. But this was all your initiative, mate. So tell us how that all kicked off.
Well, so it was, I'm being a Kiwi, it's almost law to be a big fan of Murph, and I'm definitely always been a massive fan of him, and also Richie. I followed Richie when he went, was doing all the open wheeler stuff in the early 2010s. He absolute gun of a driver, and it was a shame that Europe never really eventuated. But when I was just scrolling through Instagram one night, and I follow Peter Adderton. He's a bit outspoken, and I enjoy reading a lot of his posts. So I just saw one pop up, and it was just a screenshot of Murph and Richie, and the week prior or a couple of days prior, the Super Cheap Auto Wildcard was announced with Russell Ingall and Brock Feeney. So it was a thing where Peter felt like he was outmarketed. So he had the idea. He goes, "Let's do it. Let's get a Kiwi car, Boost Mobile. Let's get retired racers Murphy and Richie out of retirement. Get them back in the car for a Bathurst campaign." And when I saw it, I thought, oh, okay, this. I think it's just a bit of banter, but I thought that's a really good idea. That would be so popular. Greg Murphy never had a proper farewell Bathurst. In 2014, his final start before last year, he ended up taking up the TV role. At that point, he looked like he was going to continue co-driving into 2015. So he never had a goodbye, this is my final Bathurst. And it didn't go too well either. 2014 Bathurst, a lot went on. And unfortunately, they had electrical issues, so they never really got a good opportunity to be able to fight for anything in the 2014 edition. So it was I really love the idea of having a farewell Bathurst for Murph, and I know he's got a huge fan base. So to be able to, get him back in the car, I knew that'd be popular. And then the Richie aspect of it, I was such a big fan of him, and when everything kind of transpired in his 2 seasons racing full time in supercars, he never really got a good opportunity. Like that Tickford ride, he was in the fourth car. It doesn't matter who they have in that fourth car; they just don't seem to have the same opportunity as, say, the Waters car. Richie's he was almost matching Waters when he was co-driving with him in 2017. He had awesome pace, and you don't suddenly go 2 seconds slower than that driver. There was a lot of car issues, and he just didn't have the support at Tickford that year. And that really, I think, really gutted him out. He's driven in so many different categories, and every one he's been competitive. He can drive, and to suddenly be right at the back of the pack and being like, why I'm driving some awesome laps here, and it's just not coming up on the timesheets. That I think really kind of killed his confidence a bit, and then. At the end of 2018, he was initially supposed to be on a 2-year contract, and both parties it just wasn't working for, so that got cut. Looked like Richie was going to be out of a ride for 2019, and then Peter Adderton jumped in with Boost Mobile, and ended up supporting Gary Rogers Motorsport, and took on Richie as part of the sponsorship deal, and give him another go, which was fantastic. But that year, only a couple of years earlier, Gary Rogers moved back to Holden and Commodore after his Volvo kind of experience, yep. and so, Gary Rogers weren't quite as competitive as they had been. More of a mid-pack team, and unfortunately there was a lot of politics in the background as well. Gary was nearing the end of his supercars venture. A lot of people put it down to Boost Mobile pulling the plug at the end of the year, why Gary Rogers did go, and the situation wasn't great. That definitely was a factor. But I think, Gary Rogers and Barry, they both were looking elsewhere for a little bit anyway, and they wanted to really get into the S5000 TCR, and the Trans Ams, and just kind of go in a different direction, because I know Gary, after a lot of things with supercars and that, just it wasn't really working. So it was a shame that Richie suffered back injury, and he his neck and back.
Yeah.
He had to step down for a few rounds in 2019, and then the controversy at the Gold Coast with the media and not being there where he should have been.
Yep.
And that whole situation, it didn't unfold like it should have. In the end, Peter had no idea about what went on. He heard about Richie losing his seat for the race on social media. And don't get me wrong, it's important to be there for fan sessions and for the media sessions. It's part of your role, it's part of the job.
Absolutely.
But I think that was, it was really hard, to pull him out of the car because of it. That was pretty hard. And again, that would have been a big confidence hit And, and you could see Richie was really struggling by the end of that year. He just was not in a happy environment. And by the time that he left at Newcastle in 2019, he left his helmet and all at the track. He had no desire whatsoever to continue in any motorsport. He was happy with that being the end of his story. He just did not enjoy racing anymore. And so he decided to hang up the helmet. And, that's so sad for someone that only 4 years prior was looking very, very good for a Williams seat in Formula One. And he was just a little bit of budget shortfall, which ended up preventing him from doing that. But, he's a world-class driver. And to see his supercar venture end within 2 years in those kind of circumstances was really disappointing. So when the wildcard idea popped up, I thought I need to do something and see if I can kind of gain a bit of, momentum support behind it to see if we can somehow make this work. I knew Murph for years had said that he'd never want to, he's done, he's retired.
He's done. Absolutely. Put a fork in
doesn't have any desire to come back.
Nope.
So I thought that would be the hard part, and Richie, obviously, with everything that had gone on, trying to convince him to, come back. So I started an Instagram and a Facebook page, Murphy Stanaway Wildcard, and I just started posting stuff in support of it. So initially it was, just post saying, be pictures of Murph's Bathurst ventures or Richie, going, this is what they've done in the past. We'd love to see you back, guys. Look at the fan support. And then I'd start sharing stories just of their past, people seem to forget, but Richie won at Monaco in F2 and he's raced at Le Mans and just kind of remind people of what Richie can do and what also Murph had achieved, just to try kind of build that interest and just remind people that these guys are both gun drivers and, it would be a great addition for the sport to have them in for the weekend. So so I plugged away on that for a little bit. I was posting a lot. I really put a lot of time into it. I really enjoyed it. And then not long after starting it, Murph and Richie got on behind the page, and so did Peter Adderton and Boost Mobile, which was just fantastic. And once it started to gain a little bit of momentum and the word started to get out that it was a potential possibility. I was just mind blown to see, and thousands of people by that point had gotten in behind the pages, and they were really keen to see it happen too. And then I had Boost Mobile, Peter and Jason, sing out to me and say that they, if we can make it all work, they want me to be there with them and run the social media for the team for the entry and be there with the guys and support the team. And for a Kiwi that is quite far away from all that kind of world and been such a big fan of myself, of the supercars and the circus and that, I thought that would never happen. Being able to actually be involved with something like that. So when the opportunity came, I said to Peter and Jason, I will do anything to help. If you bring me over there, I'll sweep the garages if you need me to. I really want to help. So once that was all starting to look pretty good, I was starting to get quite pumped, and I was getting a lot of laughs on the page in there as well. I like to have a bit of banter, and I was making a lot of jokes about Russell Ingall and Greg Murphy racing door to door again, because it was originally supposed to be in 2021, and people love that. So I'd Photoshop Russell and Greg on mobility scooters racing around Bathurst and stuff like that, just to have a bit of a laugh. People seem to enjoy it, so that was cool. And again, just got a lot of support. And then I think it was about May 2021. It got confirmed that Erebus Motorsport would run the wildcard, and Richie and Murph would be back for the first time in since 2019 and 2014 respectively, which was just fantastic. I couldn't believe it, and they sent me a video when they announced it on Sunrise that morning, and it was Richie and Murph saying thank you and how they appreciated what I'd done and how it was a factor in why they came back, and to hear that was just mental. And I thought, this is just amazing, this is actually going to happen. I can't believe that we've managed to get Murph back for another Bathurst and Richie back in a car. I just thought it's just mental. And
I don't think Murph could believe he was coming back after Pete blackmailed him.
well, that's exactly right. And Murph was definitely the harder one to convince. Richie, I think, was on board a lot earlier. But for Richie as well, a big part of coming back was knowing that he could drive with his childhood hero. I talked to Richie's mum about it, and she said, Richie used to have posters of Murph on the wall, and like a lot of us had, and used to idolise him. Yeah, exactly right. You've got the setup right behind you.
Sprint Gas Murphy suit hanging on the wall behind me.
There you go. So, and that's what Richie was like. So, the fact that he knew that he could come back to Bathurst under the wing of Greg, race with his hero in the car 51. I think that was a big incentive for Richie to come back. And so yeah, so it was all looking really cool. And we're trying to organise test days and that. But then unfortunately, COVID got on the road again, and then all the MIQ and everything happened. So for New Zealanders, if they wanted to come over to Australia, they would have to do 2 weeks quarantine here, 2 weeks quarantine there. So it's essentially a month either side. Well, a month.
Oh, and that's if you could even get a slot with your stupid
that's it. And
hotel
that was a big thing
and stuff.
In New Zealand, it was poor. Like there was no spots. Like no one could get in. People
unless you were the All
Blacks,
because then you can come and go.
Exactly right. Like New Zealand has a thing for supporting, rugby and cricket and a few of those kind of sports, but they're not big on their motorsport. So that hampered, and I know Murph and Richie, I don't think they were prepared to do that. Murph has a lot of commitments, so it's really hard for him. If he had to step away for a month and sitting in a hotel room, and that just didn't work. So yeah, it was I think about September, October, because Bathurst was delayed that year. It got announced that it was getting postponed. It was called off. At that point, I was a little worried. I'm going, I really hope we can revive it for next year. They wanted to, but there was always circumstances which could change. And then I kept in contact with Boost and just to see what was going on. Unfortunately, we regained a bit of traction again the following year, and then we managed to get it all teed up, which was fantastic. And then they had a few test days, and apparently Richie was just mental. Apparently it was like third or fourth lap around the track, he was already just smashing it with the lap times. He was just straight back into it, and this is after a couple of 3 years without being in the car, and that I think gave them a lot of confidence. And then we ended up after their test days, Pukekohe happened, and that's when we caught up, and Murph ran in an old Ford Sierra and got a few miles, which was great. And Richie was there, and I caught up with him when he came to Pookie, and then
well, it was Murph and Johnny Bow in that classics race. Johnny Bow was zooming around in the Sierra as well. Was the old Dick Johnson Sierra?
Yeah, it was.
The bloke that bought the guy that over there that's bought it. The Shell Sierra.
Yeah, the Shell Sierra, and then Stephen Richards was also racing, and they had a lot of the old school guys that wanted one last run around Pookie, and it was great though, because it gave Murph one more go around Pookie, and it was great to get him a few miles as well. And then
that turn one bump, how good is it?
Oh mate, unreal! It's
the whole back end of the straight. Johnny Bow's visor, like helmet keeps falling down over his eyes because of this track's so rough. Yeah, you forgot about that.
The amount of character, and when we're talking to John, it was great, because he just gave a lot of us, gave us an insight on how awesome the track is because of the character and just the history of the track, and it was a hard weekend to say goodbye, and I'm chuffed that you were able to see it before it did disappear.
I wish I came so many years earlier. I always had it on the list for next year. You know what I mean?
That's it. And, and it is one of those things, hindsight's a wonderful thing, like it's, I'm just glad you did get that opportunity. And it was a good one.
What a circuit though. What an amphitheater for sport. Like it's very similar analog to the Sandown setup with the horse track and the racing circuit around the outside, except for you guys have got the best viewing mounds with the grandstands all the way down the straight and everything. But that viewing mound there is right across pit lane. It's just brilliant.
Oh, it's great. And, you watch it all unfold and you really feel like you're part of it. You can watch all the pit stops and there's a real amphitheater kind of feel there. And like, it's such a shame. I was absolutely heartbroken when they announced that it was getting shut down and that they're going to rip up turn one, to put a,
stables in
stable there. And those kind of things, Pookie had been around for 50 years or 60 years. And to see it, closed doors like that, it was heartbreaking. But fortunately, we had a bit to look forward to in the coming weeks. And so what happened was Jason from Boost Mobile, who runs Boost Mobile these days, he was fantastic in the whole scenario. He wanted to make sure that I was teed up with the guys. So I flew over with Murph and Murph's trainer, and we teed up with Richie in Darling Harbour in Sydney on the Tuesday morning, and then we then caught up with Peter and a few of the guys, and had breakfast, had a good yarn, got pumped. Then we headed to Bathurst. So we travelled. It was Richie, Murph, myself, and Murph's trainer, and it was fantastic. Just talking a bit of crap and finding out, like just how excited they were for the weekend, and it was all looking cool, getting some good stories, and really enjoyed that. And then once we got to Bathurst, so we're like, okay, Murph goes, we've got to drive around the track. He said, I've done it every year I've raced here. I need to drive around the track when I arrive. It's part of it. And we go up to the just out of turn one, and we go up the mountain, and they go, no, you can't.
Yeah,
We
stupid
go,
fun police.
exactly. They're like, we're sorry, but you can't. And then, Murph's like, well, we're racing this weekend, like I'm a full-time winner here. I just want to go around once to have a look at the track. And they said, no, you need to have a pass. So we ended up having to go back out of the circuit, go get the passes, come back, and then they let us through. And so we went up the mountain and had a stop just before Skyline, and took a bit of a photo, and of the guys back at Bathurst, which was great. And then went back down and came back around, going opposite direction to the track, which was a weird feeling. And yeah. So then
Well, you
we were
came
set.
back
We were at
down Mountain
Bathurst.
Straight. You didn't keep going down through the elbow.
No, well, so we ended up going down, and just as we were getting through the chase, it was all blocked off. So we had to turn around at the chase and come back
Oh, and go
around.
all the
And
way back around again. Yeah, because the
yeah,
fun
so
police
they
on
just
that
kind of
side near the footbridge as well. Like just
yeah,
down at
so they kind of
Murray's.
cut
Down
that
at
off to do
Murray's, yeah.
something.
Down at
Yeah,
Murray's.
but that was all right, because we got to go the opposite direction, which was honestly one of the weirdest feelings I've ever had. Um,
100%.
just going up the mountain from that end. So that was cool. But yeah, then we ended up back at back at one of the houses that we were staying at, and just kind of chilled and talked about what was ahead. And Murph and Richie were excited. And we were just talking about what the possibilities were. And like Richie really wanted to get in the 10. Peter gave him and Murph a bit of incentive too. Said he'd give them a few goodies if they managed to crack the 10. So that was a bit of incentive for the boys if they needed any more. And yeah, so then the weekend kind of kicked off, and the guys straight away did an awesome job. Like, we had a few little kind of mechanical issues right at the start in the first practice or two, just getting the car kind of getting going again, and they got comfortable relatively quickly. The hard thing for the guys was, though, just the change in track all weekend just made it so hard for them to get in a good rhythm and get some really good laps. Like, I don't think Murph got stuff all dry running, and
Yep.
Richie got stuff all running as well, really. So when we came into qualifying on Friday, we weren't expecting too much, and we were kind of hoping for a bit of rain, because the car, we were struggling with straight line speed. We were a few K down on the straight, so we were kind of struggling a bit there. So for us, it was like a bit of rain just evens out, like the straight line speed deficit, and just makes it a bit less pain. So on Friday, when it started raining, we're going, oh, okay, this could be good. We might be quite competitive here. And then quali happened, and which Friday, by the way, happened to be my birthday, which was a fantastic way to
That's right.
celebrate, and have my birthday at Bathurst. And then Richie
He's part
pedaled the
fish.
thing to fifth place in qualifying, which ended up being fourth because of Shane's penalty.
Penalty, yeah.
And so put us on the second row of the grid. And we're thinking, well, it wasn't all done there. We were going, okay, top 10 tomorrow, and if it's raining, Richie could be a shot for pole here, who knows? This is quite exciting. And then on Saturday, the weirdest thing happened, where the shootout was cancelled due to the amount of standing water and the rain and everything. And we're quite gutted in a way, because we're going, we could have potentially got even further forward, the way Richie was and how competitive he was. But it just wasn't meant to be. And the fortunate thing was, we had a straight car. Going into Sunday, we were starting fourth on the grid, second row of the grid for a wild card with two retired drivers was just mental. So that was just absolutely mega. And so we took that with a bit of pinch of salt. We're going, hey, we couldn't run the shootout, but we're starting fourth. So that was awesome. And then come race day, Murph got to start the car, which was really cool. So he actually got a pretty decent start too, which was mega, and ended up get pretty much up to P2 going into the first corner, and then he kind of was pushed out a bit wide and got in the puddle and dropped a couple spots. So that was just the way it was, and then all the drama unfolded behind him.
Yeah, that
And
was
then
all
like he
Jamie
just yeah, exactly, and all the and
doing the
Jacko
same
got caught
thing, putting
up
the
and
boots in the puddle on the outside of two
exactly
or outside
and
of
gone
one, and yeah,
and fortunately, for Murph, he was
took
able to.
out Jack Perkins. Took him.
He did. He did. It was crazy, and we're going, geez, and we are just so happy at that point. We're going, Murph got through, like it's all good, car's clean, and then it kind of kicked off again. Like there was a safety car. They managed to get everyone kind of cleaned up, and then as soon as it got going again, we had old Zane Goddard, went down the
Yeah.
inside of Murph, going into the chase, and unfortunately overcooked it, and then went
Yeah, oh,
through
yeah.
and ended up having a pretty decent shunt. So that was again we're very very close to getting caught up in that. Murph just kind of saw him there at the last second and opened up the steering and let him through, which was
Was that also
very
Reynolds? Was that
fortunate.
also Reynolds involved in that one as
Yeah,
well?
yeah. So Reynolds and Heimgartner both got caught up in that one,
Yeah, that's right.
and
I
that
was I
was
was actually on that corner at that time outside the chase, and yeah, that was
oh, it was mental and really gutted for there was a lot of guys races, six drivers were out there, three
yeah
cars,
done
six
in the first
drivers.
handful of laps, just bang out.
Exactly, it was gutting and then Murph. What we found that first stint, especially, Murph was because he had very little dry running. He just took a bit to gain the confidence, and I think a lot of the drivers behind kind of realised that Murph was still kind of getting his head around it, and so he dropped back a little bit. But people were just throwing down the inside, and Murph just wanted to keep the car straight, and because he really wanted to give it to Richie, and so Richie
Yep.
could do his thing, and then the day kind of unfolded all right. Unfortunately for us, we were sharing a pit boom with Triple Eight with Lowndes and Fraser, and unfortunately they were the only car that decided to do the same strategy as us.
Yeah.
So we wanted the long strategy, just kind of stay out for track position and stuff like that. But yeah, unfortunately Triple Eight did the same, so we ended up on the same strategy, and we ended up having to stack three or
Yeah.
four times through the race, and that kind of put us back, and then we were trucking on all right. I think running kind of 15th, 16th, kind of lead lap, and Murph was in the car, and unfortunately Jake Kostecki came down the inside at turn 2 and turned Murph around, and that ended up putting him quite far back, and then just was the way of the green running that lasted just yonks. They ended up going a lap down, which kind of hampered us a lot, and then fortunately there was a couple of safety cars nearing the end, and we got back on the lead lap, and Richie ended up pedaling it to 11th, just behind Will Brown in 10th. Just held off Golding, who was right behind. But
Oh, it
all
was
day,
mad. We thought you guys were going to literally pull into the 10, and I'm going,
what?
well, there's Hero Murph, but there's Brownie.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
don't take each other out. Somebody take out nine.
exactly,
Like, somebody put ninth into the wall, please, so we can both be 9 and 10.
exactly, and have all three boost cars in the 10. Like it was,
Yeah, because Brady
it
was
was.
on a mission. He was on
Oh,
a tear.
it was great, and we were all pumped, and it showed how much Peter was into the wildcard program, because he was stuck in our garage. Like Brody was fighting for the podium,
Yep.
one of the other boost cars, but Peter was here right next to Richie and Richie's dad and Murph and Murph's family, and we're all just watching how Richie was going, and it really the one kind of sad thing that kind of happened was because of our straight line speed, it was just impossible to overtake, because we had it a
Sure
few
engines.
times where Richie was right up the bum end of another car coming out of turn 1. He would get alongside him, and he'd be pretty much in front, and then the car would end up coming back in front of him again by the end of the straight, because we just had
Yeah.
no straight line speed. So for Richie, he couldn't really move too far forward unless someone had a bit of a moment, and gave him a good opportunity. So but Richie did a monumental job. 3 years out of the car, he was punching it, doing the lap times of all the full timers, and and at that point, I think he really enjoyed it. I think just being back in the car and being able to have a bit of fun with it, and not having all those external kind of pressures. Peter just wanted him to have fun. And before the sessions, that's what he keeps saying. Once we turned our first lap on Thursday, Peter goes, whatever comes next is a bonus.
Yeah, we're
We've made
done.
it. We've got
We've
here.
made it.
We've exactly. And so when it ended up, going as well as it did, and got fourth on the grid and finished P11, after a day, the race day didn't really pan out, but we still finished. The car was
We didn't
clean.
bin it.
Like yeah, well,
There's still
it was
over half the field's parked up behind us. So
exactly. And we had a 50-year-old Greg Murphy. And Richie Stanaway had been out, and so for us it was just mental. And so it was such a great feeling on that Sunday night, like in the garage and everything. Just everyone was so happy, and I tell you what, being in that environment, being around Richie and Murph's support groups, because again, you only see so much from the point of view of a supporter. Like you don't really see that kind of support. And tell you what, they are just all awesome people, and you can see why. Both of them are so successful because they've got a great support team behind them, and it was great to see. Murph was able to be there with his kids. Like he didn't get to experience that with his last Bathurst start. His kids were all quite young and
Yeah,
they didn't really, but
they
now they're a bit older and they could all appreciate what he was doing and
was
and they
racing
could all be
himself
there.
now.
Exactly. And it was the same for Richie, the fact that, when he got out of the car, mum and dad were there, he had all these friends and family and they were all there to support him. And it was just the atmosphere in that carriage was just magnificent. And I think that translated in the performance because, everyone, it was a place people wanted to be. A lot of people came down to see how we were going, because they were all interested and wanted us to do well. And then when we did, it was like, amazing. Like we were just happy to be there. So to be competitive was just mega. So we'll always look back at that weekend as like we're best ever qualifying for a wild card at Bathurst. We didn't. Lounsey got the P8, which was the best result, but
Yes,
like we'll definitely still take 11th and fourth on the grid. And and then going forward, we were just thinking if Richie wants to hang up the helmet now, that's fine. He's done a great job showing everyone that he can still drive and he's still competitive. And then when he after the weekend he said he was open to driving more, we were going, this is just mental. Now we actually might get Richie back racing again. And then a few months later we hear, like Peter tried to get a car on the grid for this year, and unfortunately all
yeah,
the politics behind supercars it didn't
yeah.
eventuate.
Don't
But
get me
that's
started on that. I'll go for another hour on that one. Don't you worry.
exactly. It's yeah. There's a lot there, but Richie then got the next best thing. He ended up pairing up with a good mate. Shane and Richie's families know each other well, and they've got a lot of history. So the fact that Richie could race with Shane, we knew that was going to be a great pairing, and so those guys next round are going to kick off together, and I think that'll be mental. They will be a great combination.
That's like one of the top five driver couplings for the
Oh,
Enduros kicking off in a couple of weeks. That's going to be
it's
pretty solid.
I can't wait to see how Richie goes in these Gen 3 cars and in a car that is competitive. Like the last time he drove a car that competitive was when he was at Tickford in 2017,
Yeah, with
pairing with
Waters.
Waters.
I
And
was
then,
there. I got sprayed by his champagne when they won the 500 on debut. Line me
exactly,
right in the
and
face.
they got pole, they won the race, they dominated the
On
race.
rookies, as rookies.
Yeah, and Bathurst, they were because it was wet as well. They were doing so well, and they should have been a real shot. And then again, things didn't work
They're going to
out.
dry
Like
it out on Sunday after that
they did,
miserable.
but they were again. They were competitive throughout the day, and then Gold Coast they were competitive again. And I think they came second one of the races. So Richie in a good car, he was punching with Waters. So I think we'll see him be competitive with Shane, and I think he'll
For
do a
sure.
great job. And then obviously the thing that's come off it is that now he's been announced as Reynolds' replacement at Grove, which is just mental. So now to think, 2.5 years ago,
A
he
thought
was
bubble, a little thought bubble where Pete said, I really want to see Richie come back and I want to do something to help him out because of the way he left GRM and the perception that it
exactly,
was all Pete, and Pete owed him a debt, which is what
yeah,
Pete said. I will do everything I can to try to get him back onto the grid because he felt bad about the way it all ended.
yeah,
Um,
exactly,
and then a
and
couple of years down the track, we have the wild card. Look, based on your efforts with the fan support and the petition and just the sheer avalanche of uh, posting and history that you were continuing to build a momentum behind on the Boost Wildcard page. I think you got what did you end up on the petition? Like 4,000 people, was it?
again, yeah, got so much support, man.
Like in the
Like I
first,
think,
only in the first month or so, it just like blew up. It just
oh,
shared around when
everyone.
we shared it. Everyone just went nuts and went, we want to see Murph back on track. And yeah, good to see Richie too, because, you know, some people were GRM fans and didn't like the way he left, or a lot of people went, well, Richie did it to himself back in the day. He was a young bloke and, you know, his head was in a different place. But they all wanted to see Murph come back and they all went, yeah, let's do this. Let's get it happening. So everyone's jumped on. You've ended up in Bathurst. I could barely catch up with you over the week you were there. I only saw you like 3 or 4 times because you were too busy running from one side of the circuit to the other side of the circuit.
Whereas, that's it. And being embedded in that team, you know, like, and having the opportunity to be alongside them and kind of watch it all unfold from that point of view, you know, and I wanted to keep the fans engaged. So, you know, I was in there posting updates and photos and you know, and for us as well, we didn't actually have any sound in the garage, you know, from the commentary or anything. So, you know, during the weekend, it was, you know, I was kind of helping Peter and all that understand what was going on, and you know, like on race day, we just had timing sitting there in the screen with the pictures, but we didn't have any commentary. So you know, especially on race day, I'm there going, okay, you know, they pitted this long ago. We're going for this kind of strategy, trying to build a bit of a picture around it for the team. So, you know, it was quite hard to kind of step out of there, and you know, and it was just the place to be, and you know, just kind of mingling with all these people and you know, finding out a bit more, and you know, just being able to spend the time with you know, Julie and Richard and you know, a lot of Richie's family, and just, you know, like everyone was just fantastic, and you know, like I just treasure that opportunity to be able to meet them all and see their point of view on all the scenarios, and just hear more of the story. You know, like, you only hear so much through news agencies and the likes. You know, you never get the full picture, and I feel like I got more of a picture, and that just made me respect and follow Richie and Murph even more, because seeing, you know, like, who's behind them really was so cool to see. You know, like, not everyone has that kind of support behind them, and I think it does make a big difference, and so to see, you know, Richie with that, and you know, the whole thing about the page, you know, once we got a bit of momentum, for me, a massive part of it was to change the perception of Richie, because, you know, there was a lot of kind of this false image of him. You know, people kind of saw him as the person who had a struggling attitude at the end of his supercar career, but that wasn't Richie. You know, that was he was in a bad situation, and you know, of course, he's, when you're in that kind of place where you haven't got confidence in yourself, you haven't got confidence in your team, the team don't have confidence in you in a way, you know, like, all this kind of, it transpires
it all
into
broke down.
you
The
know,
whole thing, literally one on one. Then there's like not going to the presser. That was, I think, just the final straw. Like that
yeah,
wasn't the reason. That was just the last
yeah,
bit that fractured it. And Gary's of the same mentality as a lot of old school racers. There's no free lunch.
exactly.
If you're working with GRM, you're down packing orders, you're working on a daily basis. You don't care if you're the driver or you're the head engineer or you're the apprentice, you're doing what anybody needs you to do for the business, because it's the
Exactly.
business of car racing is Gary Rogers Motorsport. It's everybody's, and he's not the last that have gone through there, or the first
No,
that has
no,
been
no.
let go because of not
Hey,
prepared to, you know, sweep the
hey,
floors and stuff.
20 years ago, a young Jamie Whincup got sacked from that team. You know,
Yeah,
like,
and a
and
tender.
yeah, exactly. So there's been a lot of names, and you know, like, and just because it doesn't work with a particular team or team owner, whatever it may be, doesn't mean that they're not a good driver. You know, that's been
No, it's
proven.
nothing to do
You
with
know,
it.
and you've got to have that right environment behind you, and we've seen it so many times. You look at the whole Percat scenario at Walkinshaw. You know, that guy, when he was at Brad Jones, he was punching well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
really well, and you know, he won with Lucas Dumbrell.
Yep.
You know, he's done a lot of great stuff over the years, and for some reason, whatever it may be, he's just not clicking with Walkinshaw, and Walkinshaw aren't clicking with him. And you know, I don't, you know, I'm gutted to see how he's going, but you know, I don't rate him really any less. And I know he's got the ability and all that. It's just this whole environment hasn't worked, and you know, that's what you would have, you know, was the same thing with Richie and Tickford and GRM. It's just those environments weren't right, and you know, it was just unfortunate that it was the start of his career with two scenarios which just didn't work. And you know, I think Stephen Grove has just been fantastic with like Matt Payne, and you know, he's given him so much support, and you know, he's gotten the experience of Garth Tander and a lot of these engineers which, you
Yeah,
know, have worked with
Gouchy.
some of the best drivers, and they know, you know, like, there's the whole misconception that, if someone doesn't have a personality, it means they're not a good driver. It's just not the case. Like not everyone can be a Craig Lowndes or a Greg Murphy, or, can Peter Brock, kiss the babies and shake hands and all that kind of stuff. Not everyone's like that. And you shouldn't rate Richie as a lesser driver for that,
Well,
because
this is the same situation you're talking now that we're talking about him at Grove. Davey Reynolds was their big poaching, right? So they poached him. Well, there was initially, let's talk about team frictions and dynamics. Dave signs with Erebus for 10 years.
Yep.
1 year into, during COVID, Al, his engineer, can't travel away and be locked up for 3 months up north, where all the teams were living away just to try to stay within borders. We had 4 rounds in a row at Sydney Motorsport Park. We have back-to-backs up in Townsville. We have, back-to-backs in Darwin and stuff. So Dave's relationship with Barry deteriorated without having Al as the buffer to engineer or to pass on the communications from Baz to Dave. Their personalities don't work well together in that circumstance, and so he's out. He goes, I'm not playing anymore. That's done my head in. So there's your fractured relationship. Ends up going to Grove. Al goes with him, takes Penrite with him, unfortunately. Took the whole load of kit and caboodle over to Grove. Now that relationship's not working, and Dave's out of contract at the end of the year, and they're more than happy to let him go. His results haven't necessarily developed to where they expectations were, plus whatever else is going on in the garage with the Groves plan. Once they brought into the team, because they were Kelly Grove to start with, and then so once that transition happened, Dave's out at the end of the year, shooting off to Team 18 by all reports, which will be happening. It's just waiting for clear air to pump that out. But then Richie, who was the Cowie for Shane at Triple Eight, and I think he had done. Did he do a GT round as well once? Or?
So Richie's been doing a little bit of the Australian GT, or
but before Feeney sort of jumped into the slot, didn't Richie have a little bit of Fanatec GT? Didn't he have a round or two?
Yeah. So Richie's done it when Brock can't, because same weekend, and then Richie's also been doing the Asia series. So he's been running over there as well. So like he raced at Okayama last weekend in Japan.
Yeah, right. That's what I was also thinking.
Yeah. So he's had the miles, and he's been embedded with that Triple Eight team. He's been doing stuff with them and their engineers and all that as well. So that's been good to get embedded in the team. And fortunately for Triple Eight, it's a big benefit too, because Richie's got great experience in GT cars. He raced in the World Endurance Championship for a few years as an Aston Martin factory driver. So he's got the pedigree for it, and I think that would have been a great benefit to the team. And like he did a fantastic job at Sydney Motorsport Park when he was in that car. He jumped in and just he was doing lap record after lap record, and ended up there was a fantastic finish in that race with Richie really going for it. And again, I think it all reminded us, and we this kid's a star. Like we got to see this. And
he got back on the radar. He got literally back onto the people's talking point, not just about the wildcard one-off, finishing 11th, having a great sort of novelty round, which it was, and made for great TV and the great story, like the wildcard doco made for a great story. But now he's sort of got his bum back in the seat and he's back across people's desks. So Triple Eight were using all of his lines in that wet sessions in Bathurst at the time, because he had the best lines. So they were studying him from previous years as well. About
2017. Looking at the footage from back then.
Well, this is how Richie did it. So let's get him in, put him in the stable as a Cowie. Shane's shooting off. We don't want to keep him as a full-time driver. My opinion, it's all because he's not a Red Bull ambassador personality.
Yeah. And I think after experience with Shane, but Shane's quite a similar personality to Richie in a way, and likes to do his talking on the track, isn't a big personality off the track.
Hates doing all the media stuff, all the ancillary things. He's a racer. He just wants to be raced. He doesn't want to be doing press conferences and doing all little novelty bits and pieces and all that stuff. And I
that
don't
comes
think
with
Richie's
that
the same.
role.
Richie's quiet. He's a quiet personality. He's quietly spoken,
Oh,
and
for sure.
times that I've
And
met him and spoken with him, he's very reserved. And
yeah,
that being an introvert, and Shane's an introvert. Red
yeah,
Bull is not an introverted company brand. They're an extrovert. They're
not at all.
high energy, X Games, extreme sports, extreme everything. They want loud, confident, not someone who just
Will
turns up quietly and stands in the corner.
they want Will Brown, and that's
Well,
what they
that's
got.
right. And
You
he's
know
a
that
pilot.
exactly. He's perfect for that kind of role, and
Him and
that's why
Matty
you can
Hall are
see.
going to be doing like sky skids together. They're going to be doing
Yeah,
Red Bull promos in the car and in the air. Like the
exactly.
whole
And
cross
so you can
promotional sport dynamic is just tick, 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 tick. Because it was actually Red Bull that was chasing Will Brown, not Triple Eight.
yeah, exactly. And you can see why,
I mean,
and
Triple
that
Eight wanted
move
him again, but it was all because Red Bull was saying, why can't we have Will Brown? Oh, he's under contract. Are you sure? Because
exactly.
we have a model. We have a brand. This guy, the only other guy that would really fit in the lane would be Chaz
Yeah,
as
yeah,
a Red Bull brand. Waters is
yeah.
monster, but Waters is miserable. He always looks like he's pouting and looks like someone stole his lunch. Like he's
He's a good match for Tim Edwards then.
yeah, yeah. Well, we've got happy Tim at the moment. We got smiling Tim because
We
look at the
do.
last round. Like all
We
three
do after
three
Randall's
Tickfords are
performance
up
of
in the
that.
10, they a couple of podiums. Tommy Randall had a breakout weekend. Too bad he's about to get sacked. And
Oh, again, all these scenarios, it really does make you wonder. Like it's especially Randall. That for me, if he's not in that second Tickford seat next year, then there's something
well,
seriously
look,
wrong.
well, since Townsville, right? So I remember when I put all this stuff out, when I put all my statements about driver movements way back in Townsville, and I got a whole bunch of comments back. A lot of people just shaking their head, going, "You're full of crap." What are you talking about? Like garbage. You just whatever. And other people going, "Oh, really?" So I said, "Well, mate, I don't have to defend myself. Just wait for time, and we'll see where
Exactly.
these statements end up." So
See how
far,
it
it's tick,
unfolds.
tick, tick, tick. Scotty Pye retiring. What are you talking about? He's not going anywhere. Yeah, well, but just wait. Just wait and see till the end of the year. Oh, look what happened. He's out. Um,
Yeah.
Cam Waters, if he was out, was trying to find a NASCAR drive. And he's like, no, no, no. All of a sudden, the whole NASCAR America talk stopped after Townsville. And then he's all, no, I'm staying at Tickford. Where is he right now? This weekend in Daytona, trying to get a
He-
NASCAR deal done for next year. He's out of time for this year, but if he might be able to pull a cameo off every now and again. But getting into the enduros, there's some test days coming up. Timing might not be like we get a bit compressed now towards the end of this year.
yeah. Now we get into the kind of business time of the year, and there's some big events. The next three events are massive, so it's going to be
But
yeah,
like
it's all
like I
going.
said, he's off. He's going to go. If he had a deal this year, he wouldn't have even finished the season. He would have just walked and gone on a plane and taken off to the States. So that might be next. He'll be doing some NASCAR racing next year, and his contract's up, so he doesn't have to break it, doesn't have to buy it out, so he doesn't have to
Yeah,
owe Tim any money. And then 25, he'll be if he's not lined up for next year, he'll be definitely there in 25. But he will be racing in the States next year on like Brody will be, just doing bits and pieces. Um,
exactly.
so like all these other things that I put down there out in the wild, everyone's going, yeah, rubbish. And it's like, well, not so much rubbish. It's all
That's it,
coming, all coming.
and
The one that I didn't get early enough, because things change, obviously. I'm talking Townsville, that's months ago. Was the whole Jack LeBrock leaving MSR.
yeah, that one got me too.
That was a
You know,
surprise.
they had a few options there, and like for me, especially with the Erebus Academy program, I really did think that would be something they'd be looking at, to see if they can maybe move up, the next generation and get.
Hanson's not quite ready yet. He's still got to do a little bit more in Super Twos with his racecraft. Like he's very win it or bin it, and so bit like Jake Estecchi when he was uh running around with Tickford before they got Declan. He was a
Yeah,
very win it or bin it kind of guy. Just had to learn a little bit more
kind of
patience.
patience and a bit more experience and just build on
Sometimes
that skill set.
sometimes coming second is where you need to be.
Yeah,
Yes, you are a racer. Yes, you always want to win and you need to have that drive. But at some point, points per second will get you a championship as opposed to a DNF if you've pushed it
exactly.
too hard, just trying to make a move in the dying steps of a race. And a lot of young blokes, I mean, that's what the whole T86 category is.
Yeah, exactly right. You're right there.
Yeah, and the Super Twos. All the Super Twos boys are guilty of it. Like, how many green laps of racing did they get last year? I think they worked it out. The cost of racing in Super Twos was about $6,000 a lap. Were in under green because they had so many yellows,
That's
compared
mental.
to you go to TCRs or something else, and those, because there's so much more green racing. I think the cost of lap was only about $400 a lap of
Yeah.
green because they
Uh,
don't bin it.
well, that's it, and it's a shame for those that really do need the experience. Like because they really are kind of yeah, they're just not given as many green laps as they need. Like
Well,
we
dude, they're
want to
paying
see
up to $1
them.
million for a Super Twos year,
I
anywhere
know.
from 650 to just under $1 million to run a full Super Twos program, which is only 6 rounds.
Exactly. 10 years ago, that would have got you a supercar campaign.
100% it would have.
Like in terms of money for campaign, and that's the shame thing because these days, like how many people can put together $1 million budget to race in a second tier category, to again run so many laps just under
and
yellow.
then
Like
maybe have an opportunity for a seat that becomes available on a reducing field because a stupid idea about going to a 24-car grid instead of a 30-car grid,
oh that
expanding the sport. Actually,
that one's just
we'll
mental.
move on to that. Like, so we'll
Yeah.
just wrap up. We'll just put a bow in this whole wildcard thing, which is basically one of the best initiatives that you've ever been involved with. And so now you've moved on to the page is now the Motorsport Kiwi on
Yes.
Facebook. So that's all put behind us. Before we get into the current stuff, we'll get a bit sidetracked.
Yeah.
So your Motorsport Kiwi is your Facebook page and Instagram.
Yeah.
Um, what's the next step? What's the next step for you with being basically the official, unofficial fan representative for New Zealand in motorsport? You're basically the fans' nexus point for Kiwi supporters.
Yeah, well, I really want to, because once the wildcard kind of, wrapped up and we saw that there wasn't really an opportunity for Richie full time this year with Boost and the likes. Yeah, I thought, what do I do? I've got, 10 at that point I think about 10,000 fans, and I go, we've got such a cool, loyal, passionate fan base, and I really wanted to continue it on. And I go, what can we do? And I thought I'm a bit of a supercar nut and motorsport nut like you are, and just born different sides of the pond. And I always anyone that talks to me, I can talk for hours and hours, and I have this passion and knowledge of the sport. And I thought it'd be cool to be able to utilize that further. And I'm a little bit of a personality as well, so I thought great opportunity to be able to build the page into something that can kind of unite a lot of passionate fans of motorsport, and especially on the side of the pond, and kind of keep them updated about what's going on, and throw back to history of the sports, and why we should be excited looking into the future, and kind of just educate people for there's a lot of things that have happened in Australasian motorsport that a lot of the newer fan base don't really know or haven't really witnessed, and it's an opportunity for them to learn more about your older generation drivers. Like I've done quite a few pieces on Jim Richards because I think he's just so underrated. Like Supercars should be bringing him up a lot more on the commentary because he was one of the best drivers to race in Australian touring cars. He just was mental. Anything he drove, he was great. And so if I do research, I go through the archives to try to find stuff that I think is so cool and that I really enjoyed as a fan, and I try to just share that with the fan base, and want
Mm-hmm.
them to engage, and I want to see what they like, and what they want to see, and ways that we can enjoy, because this year we've been deprived of a lot of great motorsport because our calendar's smaller for supercars. On this side of the pond we're not seeing supercars this year, so there's a bit of a hole, and like we get around a month this year, so we still want to get our motorsport fix. And I thought it's a great opportunity, to put little highlight packages of races from back in the day, or just particular moments which have happened, which people have forgotten about, or it's just a way to kind of just share kind of a lot of the great history from this part of the world.
You're a bit like a
And
Kiwi sleuth.
well, funnily enough, I ran into Aaron when I was over in at Bathurst, and I said that's what I've had people call me, and I said, it's quite the
Yeah.
honour because I know how much of a, he's just mental, that guy, and I've always looked up to Aaron for what he's done, and especially back in the day, what he used to do with Supercars TV and with the Super Two and all that, he was just fantastic about sharing who these drivers were and what they were capable of. And it was just great because, again, you only see one side of the story a lot of the time. So it's great to see kind of more in depth who these people are, why we should support them. And that really helps just build the profile of young drivers. And so, I really want to, especially going forward, I would love to be able to, engage with the fans even more. Like at the moment, I'm doing a thing where we're trying to build the perfect supercar calendar, where I'm asking the fans, what do we want to see? How many events do we want to see? What do we want to start the year with? How many enduros do we want? Do we want to do a 2 weekend thing in New Zealand? Like just seeing what people like, just to see how far away the real thing is. And kind of just another way to show supercars, this is what the fans want. We've had thousands of people engage with this. This is what we want to see, like
start listening to the fans. I mean,
exactly.
We do the same with the pages that we run and we're on over here. We ask the same questions. We settled on about 16 seemed to be the acceptable number. I mean, we all would like more, but 16 seems to be the number where people are accepted. That I can get it. I can live with 16. I'd like to see not 18 or 19, but we all understand the cost of racing per round is expensive. I mean,
and the lifestyle for the teams and the drivers and all that as well.
The whole balance.
You look at well, that's it. You don't want them missing out on other important things in life because their whole world has to be racing. You need to have your balance. And I think
and then there's
I completely
NASCAR
agree.
doing 36 rounds a year.
Well, that's
you
it.
live on the road.
That's it. And, like for some people that works, but I know that, you would probably limit yourself in terms of driver and team personnel, if it got to the point of being on all the time, you've got to have that. And it's not, you don't want quantity over quality as well. Like you get to a point where it becomes a bit too commercialized, it's not as special anymore if it's happening all the time. So you want to have that nice mix. And I think I'm right there with you. I think a 16 event calendar would be great. And, and I think back-to-back races over here
absolutely
would be, and seeing.
Well, we look at the current 12, right? Look at the current 12 that we've got, and notwithstanding Newcastle's in the air at the moment because the NIMBYs are sooking it up in Newcastle East.
That'll be a big loss if that happens.
Well, they're going to try and probably force it over to Raymond Terrace to the Circuit Italia, the new one that they've just built 45 minutes away. Which nobody wants to go to the middle of a frigging forest and just stand in amongst the trees and 45 minutes out of town. There's nothing to do out there. You can't camp there. There's no facilities. You got to drive back to Newcastle. But I think that might be on the back end plan. But if you look at the current 12 calendar as being replicated, like we've already got those 12 locked in. We've on that calendar missing is New Zealand, and we could look at doing a back-to-back or two, but you've just got to get the facilities for servicing and maintenance
100%.
over there.
Yeah.
So logistics for that just need to be arranged because you're not flying in, flying out. They have to go, back to back. So we need to take over an engine. We need to take over some engineering spaces over there for teams to share spaces to fix cars. So definitely one, maybe two in New Zealand. Winton's
Phillip Island.
Phillip Island's an interesting one because supercars have been banned basically by Foxes because there was a personal argument years ago with the former CEO of Supercars about the cost of going racing at Supercars, and it got all aggravated and personal. And then I think words to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, I understand it, was, well, you can get effed, your category can get effed. I don't care how much effing money you have, you're never coming back as long as we own the track.
True.
So
that bridge might be a bit burnt, eh?
That bridge got burned, rebuilt, burned again, blown up, dug a hole, buried. But that was with the previous administration. So there should be hopefully some way to get through. Now, I've also heard a sneaky backroom conversation that the Shaheen family are very interested in buying Phillip Island from the
Oh, okay.
Foxes. And
Okay, that's interesting.
and because Fox is building his brand new circuit over in Avalon, so when Sandown gets the bullet, we're going to be moving over to Avalon for the Melbourne round.
Yeah.
He's got no interest whatsoever to get supercars back down to Phillip Island because he's probably going to want to move the GP and everything else. Maybe not the GP because that's an international thing, but he's going to be like the Shahins with the Bend, where they're trying to attract more car racing or motorbike racing and events to the new circuit, which will be built in the next 18 months, 2 years, something like that. So because they can't build their massive complex hotel like Ridges style, like Bathurst style at Phillip Island, because the Bash Shire have put a ban on that for 20 years because all the NIMBYs down there who complain about tourists, but they want their money, rent their houses out to the teams on the island for 10 grand a weekend, right? All their holiday houses. So they're the ones going, no, we don't want a 5-star hotel, 5-level hotel at the island because all the teams will stay there. We're going to lose our free money.
Yeah.
So
it's this agenda, right?
Yeah. So
all these agendas.
Foxy's might be wanting to flog that off if the Shahins want to buy it, because then they have control over the contracts for the MotoGP and World Superbikes and might want to pull them back over to the Bend rather than leave them at the. But they got influence over both. They have control over both circuits. Now, I'm pretty sure that MotoGP Corporation, if I was them, I would not be advertising the frigging Bend as an international event when you've got the backdrop of Phillip Island.
That's it, and for the bikes, it's a great circuit. You know, there's been a lot of fantastic racing there over the years. So you know, it would be something I think MotoGP would probably prefer for that world class event to probably stick around at Phillip Island. But you know, it is quite interesting.
That is the Victorian government.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's the other part. You know, like they
chip in, but they get a lot back as well.
Well, that's it, you know, and getting all these people over and you know, like it is great for tourism and you know, they'll definitely want to keep that event on the calendar, especially as it's been there for a fair while. So
I mean, realistically, Phillip Island is the jewel in racetracks in Australia. It's not the best. Bathurst is like the ultimate, like as far as a 6-kilometer racing on a tourist road with walls, like that's got the thrill and everything else. But as far as the spectacle, as far as the visuals, Phillip Island racetrack is the most picturesque and beautiful track in the country.
Yeah,
there's nothing comparing close to it. Even Newcastle on the beach or Gold Coast on the beach doesn't compare
to
the speed and the nature and the flowing and the racing of Phillip Island. The fact that you can be sunburnt in the morning and frostbitten in the afternoon and then flooded out and then sunburn again all in the one day is just sums up Melbourne perfectly. It's just the whole.
Yeah.
Siberia is named Siberia for a reason. If you've got a southerly, you're freezing your butt off. If you've got a northerly and the sun's out, you're just burning to a crisp. Very rarely do you get those magic days, which I did have a few rounds ago for the state racing where it was about 17, 18 degrees and no wind. And it was absolutely glorious. It was absolutely
well appreciated, eh?
T-shirt, just in short sleeves, and the sun was out, and you were warm, and you were quiet, and the wind wasn't howling, and it was just. We looked at each other and went, "This is one of those 3 days a year where God smiles on Phillip Island."
Yeah, exactly, and it happened to be one of those days.
Yeah. So we've got all. So with those calendars, like you said, Phillip Island come back. Sandown will be replaced by Avalon, but Winton's off the circuit. Queensland Raceway is off the circuit at the moment.
Yeah.
So there's 3 out of the 12. That makes you 15 straight away. You put New Zealand back, that makes you 16. You do a double at New Zealand, that makes it 17. You can piss Singapore off completely.
Oh, exactly.
Jam that idea back where you found it, Nettlefold. We don't want to see no interest in that whatsoever.
That would be the biggest. Like, I don't know how.
So there's 17 rounds straight away. we've still
Yeah,
got like Newcastle could possibly end up at Raymond Terrace. The there's always Wakefield over in
yeah,
South
and
Australia.
hey, let's bring back
Lakeside.
Calder. Let's bring back
Well,
Calder. You
Calder,
know,
exactly. Calder's got a Class C license. MA's just given them a Class C category racing license for state-based stuff and test days and track days and Marticanas and stuff. They are continuing to improve. They're looking for a Class B next, and then
yeah.
eventually they could end up being supercars ready again. So like
Oh,
there's 18 rounds. Not even with Wakefield.
yeah,
There's waiting. So Lakeside and Wakefield will never really probably come back. They could if they chose.
yeah. If you have the
Jayden
right
won't let
person.
another one in South Australia though. But
No, no, but like the fortunate thing is these days that we've got the likes of Tony Quinn and the Shurins, like all these guys that are happy to, they've got a big motorsport passion and they've got funding that they can invest. And for
yes,
us over here, without Tony Quinn's what he's done the last decade or so, honestly, we would have nothing. We would have nothing because Hampton Downs was just an unfinished track. Like it was done, but the international
no
layout, none of
facilities.
that was done. The
Yeah,
the pits were average, like everything. It needed such a facelift, and Tony did that. And he's now doing it to Taupo. He finished off Highlands, which got started, and then nothing was going to come of it, and then he finished it off, and now that's a world class circuit. We are very fortunate, and now what he's doing at Queensland Raceway, and when you've got these kind of guys with the passion and the funding behind it, you can never close the door completely. Some of these other tracks which have a great history in the sport, there's opportunity for them to come back if the right person gets them behind it. And I'd love to see more of these old school tracks with a lot of character return. Because they produce the great racing because it takes real drivers to pedal around these tracks, and you can see it every time. Like Pukekohe, that's why I always love Puki, because it has so much character. Like and like John Bow was saying when we were yarning to him about it, it's one of all those kind of old school tracks. There's becoming less and less of them, and it's the sport that misses out. Street circuits there are great, but again, you don't need many.
but it's
You
a
need to have that
temporary
balance.
circuit for a one-off event that is funded by the government on the premise of tourism is going to be the payback as a greater payoff for the setup and the 4-week construction or 5-week construction inconvenience. But once that event is over, that's not a circuit where you can go and get grassroots racing. Like you're not zooming up Watt Street in Newcastle at 200 k's an hour in your Hyundai XLs with your mates. Like it's not a
Exactly.
circuit. We need
Exactly. And you want these younger drivers to be able to race at these proper circuits, and that's why I love the fact of the circuits like Sandown and all that, and the
they're used
grassroots
all year
racing.
round.
Yeah,
Every
exactly. And
couple of weekends, Sandown and Phillip Island are used all year for club
exactly.
days,
And it's always
racing
great
days.
racing. It's always great racing. This is just an old school track. They've got opportunities for passing. They've got, long straights, heavy braking zones, that are not so many circuits these days, especially your street circuits when you look at Formula One and that, like they're just built around what they need to do. Like they're not. I swear all these old school tracks. These are people that have gone out with tractors and that and gone, oh, this would be nice, cool banking. All this kind of stuff. They start from just kind of like a paddock track, and then they
Yep.
build into a racetrack, and that keeps the character. When you've got these kind of circuits, like no one would make a Mount Panorama circuit these days. Like it's so unique because it was back in the day just this old road that just had a bit of character to it,
It's a
and
tourist
they
road. It
decided,
was actually a tourist viewpoint, just a tourist road.
yeah,
It's the only hill around there that you can get up and have a look at the whole valley, all the plains. All the plains are at the back of Bathurst there. Turned it into a
yeah,
tourist road, and they went, well, why don't we just race it? And they
exactly.
went, okay, let's just have a race. Ferodo 500 back in the day, and James
Yeah,
Hardy, and we'll just have a car race here. That's pretty cool. We'll just race up the hill, eh? It's like a hill. It's like a hill climb.
yeah, exactly. And you come down the other side, and and tracks like that, they're just becoming more and more rare. And that's why if we can have the likes of Tony and that, jump in and preserve these tracks and improve them and make them what they could be and should be. It's only better for the sport. And I can't wait to see what the supercars do around Taupo. I've watched many races there with New Zealand V8s back in the day, and then the V8 Super Tourers, Toyota Racing Series. All these these categories, the racing's always awesome there. You know, like again, it's a lot of character around the track. There's a couple big long straights which create passing opportunities, and you know there's certain corners and you know corners that come
Back
off each other that
chicane, then there's a
create good.
hairpin, and then there's
That's
some.
it. You know, there'll be a lot of side by side crisscrossing, all that kind of stuff, and you know, and mistakes will be made too because it's a track where again you get offline, and you know, in a lot of different places, you know, you end up causing yourself some mischief, and that'll just create racing, and if we end up getting rain, geez, it's going to be fun because that track
Oh, well,
again.
that's all supercars. You thought if it's, this
Yeah,
race is boring, just add water, mate.
yeah, exactly right. Maybe Bernie Ecclestone wasn't that crazy after all those years ago when he wanted to put sprinklers on F1 tracks, and you know because
Just to spice it up. Yeah.
just to spicing it up, and that's why you know like I'm really looking forward to seeing you know what Taupo is going to be like, and it's great for viewing as well. You know it's really going to be cool, and you know I'm glad that they ended up you know as much as I used to love the Hamilton 400 when that was the thing over here like
Yeah,
for
I
the
went to that.
atmosphere. Oh, did it? Well, there you go. Yep. It was mental.
I went on the. I think I went to the first one. I did. I went to the first one.
So
It only
2008.
happened a few years because it was like a ghost town though. Like it was something. It wasn't promotable. All the businesses were shut on the infield. You just walked for kilometers and there was just nothing open because everybody just shut the shops. Nobody stayed open, and it was really quite a struggle. They black plasticked everything. Like I don't think they got it. You had to be where the infrastructure, the grandstands and stuff was, just that section. But the rest of the circuit that went through the CBD, that was poor.
Yeah,
Like it
that's it.
was.
And that was the thing about Hamilton. Like I found that they had, you know, it was patchy. You know, you'd go to one part of the circuit, it'd be great. The viewing would be great. You know, they'd have entertainment going on, all
Yeah,
that
there'd be
kind of stuff.
people there. Actually,
Yeah, people
people.
there. And then other bits, it was a ghost town, and you know, like it was a cool to experience on the side of the pond having you know a street circuit. You know, and because for me that was my first experience with a street circuit, and I thought
Yeah.
it was great. You know, and in terms of entertainment, it was definitely better for than Pookie. You know, like off track entertainment. Like unfortunately for Pukekohe, the first year or two was magnificent, and then it just kept going further and further downhill. And I remember when Shane and Scott McLaughlin were fighting for a championship. I think it was 2018, and they came over here. It was the second to last round of the series by memory, and so you know it was title fight. All the
Mm,
talk was about it. Two Kiwi drivers, one for
mm.
Ford, one for Holden. So you know, like there was so much support, and DJR Penske didn't have any merchandise. So all these Kiwis, they're wanting to support their driver, and half the teams didn't have merchandise here. So, you know, Red Bull had merchandise, but it was near the end of the year. They didn't bring stuff all, so it was all sold out quick. So, you know, in terms of being a fan, it sucked because, you know,
Yeah.
like all these guys, they didn't order it online earlier in the year because they're going, oh, it's coming to New
I'll
Zealand, you
buy it at
know,
the track. Yeah.
I'll buy it at the track. And so, you know, like Pukekohe just kind of it just went further and further downhill in the terms of the off-track entertainment, and it was a shame because the first couple of years it was fantastic. They had stages, they had like simulators, they had all these different things going on, and you know, Merchandise Alley was Merchandise Alley. You know, like it was great, but you know, then every year it kind of just went smaller and smaller, and you know, in terms of off-track entertainment, you got to have it, and that's why
You do.
I'm
People
very
expect it now. But
they
unfortunately
do,
for supercars, there's a couple of problems. A, they're broke. They're
yeah,
like over $60 million in debt. Um, B, they make their revenue from the Foxtel broadcast deal, not tickets through the gate.
yeah,
So when you get a large event like Bathurst, where the camping's always sold out every single year, so they go, we don't care. We don't have to do anything. They're coming anyway. We don't
yeah,
have to spend more money. We don't have to invest any more things for bands or concerts or anything like that at Bathurst because they're already coming. We don't
yeah,
need to
exactly.
entice anybody to turn up. They're already here.
Yeah, they're coming no matter what we do.
You go to
Yeah,
Tassie and it's like a country track down at Simmons Plains, very much like Winton and QR. They don't put anything on for anybody down in Simmons Plains because nobody stays there. They all stay in Launceston.
yeah.
So there's nothing to keep people at the circuit apart from the fact that the cars are there. This is your only round. So you drive up from Hobart, or you drive down from Lonnie, and you go for the day, and then you drive back to where you came from, and then you do it again the next day. And it's well attended. I love Tassie as a circuit. It's great. There's nothing there. There's nothing there to do. And even when you go back to Launceston, I mean, this is just a whole Tassie thing. I'm not kicking Tassie, but I mean, it's 1995 in Tassie, for God's sake. Like, the pubs are shut at 9 o'clock at night or 8:30.
Oh
Like,
no, yeah, that's not right.
no, it's not. Standing in the main street of Launceston on a Saturday night at 9 o'clock, and I could shoot a gun in 4 different directions at the mall and not hit anybody. Everyone's gone home. Like, what do you mean we go out? And no, we don't go out here. No. And I managed to get into a pub at 9 o'clock as they had just finished turning the lights off and putting the chairs on the table.
Yeah.
It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. I'm going, you're kidding. You are not closed. They said, yeah, sorry, man, we're closing. They look around. There's nobody in the joint. So where do I go now? Had to find some brew house about 4 Ks away, 3 Ks away, that was open till 11:30, and that was the end of his night too. So yeah, infrastructure. But this is the thing. Getting back to circuits, you need to bring people with things for them to do. If you don't have anything for them at the circuit, they're not going to pay for it, because they're not going to get a return on their investment when they've got limited ticket sales, because they make all their coin on TV. And even that is falling well behind at the moment. TV ratings just for the general rounds, people are out of habit of watching because we don't have it on a more regular basis.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
So they're out of habit of watching. There's other things on that are taking their interest, because this year hasn't been particularly engaging for even a neutral fan who wants to see competitive, even racing, because we haven't got the cars balanced right yet. So we've got all of those issues for this new generation car, that it hasn't come out of the truck as intended. So we have a breakaway sort of series with the Camaros. Now the Mustangs are trying to claw back with the latest iteration of changes, which I thought on the last weekend worked perfectly fine at the Bend. I thought everything was raceable. Both models were 100% raceable.
Yeah, and you look, you know, like, especially on that, was it the Sunday when Brody got pole, and you know, like, I think the next like 5 cars or 6 cars were Mustangs, you know,
yeah,
like
100%.
And it showed, you know, what kind of lap he'd pulled out for sure, you know, like, when there's not another Camaro behind him, you know, but that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see everyone, if they get the car in a good window and they put together a good lap, they can be competitive. And you know, like, I really do feel for those, especially, you know, the Mustang, and we've been through it the other way, you know, like in 2019 when the Mustang was introduced.
Correct. Absolutely.
You know, it was she was on the other foot, and you know, like, and in the end, nothing
we had
was done
7 parity changes during that season, and Scotty McLaughlin and Fabs were already like 2 races ahead of everybody. Like, they were already in the points, like, so far up the field, it was
exactly
there was no chance for a ZB to catch up at that late point in the season, which is where we're at now.
Well, that's exactly right. And you know, so I know it's a hard pill to swallow, and it's not something any of us want to see. You know, I'm a Camaro fan. I can say that, but you know, I want to see the Mustangs fighting. I don't want to see a Camaro winning every race. I want to see a competitive grid.
I'm happy for us to win every race. I'm happy for them to have second and third.
Oh yeah, exactly right. There you go. But you know, like, we want to see everyone have an opportunity. There's nothing worse than you know, coming into a weekend and going, okay, you know, these 2 or 3 teams are going to be a good shout,
and everybody else is as run. Yeah,
exactly. And you want to see opportunity, and you know, I love seeing, like, Matt Payne. You know, shout out to him over from the weekend. You know, I've been a rookie and then qualifying top 5 for 2 of the races there, and he was punching with Shane and you know, the Shell guys and all that, and you know, for someone, you know, like, the last, I don't know how many rounds, Penwright and Grove haven't really had an opportunity. Was their car?
Nah, they've been in the weeds.
You know, and that's the one thing Shane's been talking about as well, you know, just with such a little kind of working window, you know, it makes it so hard. And we want to see people have the opportunity. We want to see, not because the engineers can't figure out the car. We want to see, if a guy puts together a good lap, we want them to be at the front. You know, we want, you know, like, and that's another thing I think with Gen 3 where it's gone a bit wrong, is that there's such a small working window with these cars, and getting them into that window is so difficult. And that's why, you know, Erebus and Triple Eight have done a really good job, as they've managed to, you know, really get it in that window and
we've
get
had
the best
the benefit
out of the car.
of both. I think both those teams have had the benefit of being a Camaro, which had a clear design advantage at the start of the year,
Yep.
100%. Like we didn't blow our tires out in 10 laps.
Yeah,
Our
yeah,
rear tires, like
exactly.
our geometry of the balance of the car, the aero, the forces of the car were so far advanced over the performance of the Mustang, the way that their car is set up, the way it makes its power, the way the shape of the car is, the rear aero, the balance, the forces on the rear wheels. So they had that. So our window was actually quite wide compared
Yeah.
to their window, which is razor thin. I was listening to a chat with an interview with it was yesterday on the grid. Tommy Randall talking
Oh,
about
yep,
his
yep.
his 3 podiums on the weekend. And he said he's never driven a car out of all the cars he's driven. He's driven a few. He's never seen a car where you can literally make a 1 millimeter adjustment on the thread of the suspension, and it has such a drastic effect to the overall handling. Like that's what we're
Brutal.
talking to. They're talking to 1 millimeter turn on a notch, not a whole fucking click up, moving it
Yeah,
up 2 or 3 mil or 4 mil just to change your suspension and ride heights and all of that. But these changes are so minute, but they have such an exaggerated effect to the handling. You can fall out of this tiny, tiny working window that Tim Edwards is talking about, that Ryan Walkinshaw is talking about, that Bruce is talking about.
yeah,
These tiniest windows where before, you can work around in it,
yeah,
and we haven't even got to the fact we've still got no in-car anti-roll bar adjustments
yeah,
on front and rear
yeah.
bars at the moment, which will be coming back because you'd be able to mask a lot of issues if you had that adjustment in car, I'm sure. You'd
Exactly.
be able to
Yeah,
soften and tighten the rear end as you need to and maybe try to preserve your tire life.
yeah,
But if the
exactly.
Camaros have it as well, they'll probably just extend their margin because they'll be doing the same. And, the king of the bars, Shane,
Yeah.
will be doing his
Shame.
45 adjustments per lap in
Oh,
like entering corner, mid corner, exiting corner, bang, 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 adjustment, brake bias, front bar, rear bar, come out, brake bias, front bar, go to the straight, trim, and then like,
yeah, exactly. But again, and it's having that tool at your disposal and leaving it up to the drivers as well, putting another thing in their hands, and because you want the performance really, like it's always going to be a team game, and as it should be. But I would love to just see more kind of put into the drivers and more about them wringing the neck of the car
well,
rather
that's what
than
we've
having
got
to come
now.
back to. Yeah,
That is what we've got now. The drivers have to deal with the tire walls walking and the rear end sliding
yeah,
and the 30% of aero downforce that they used to have. So they can't just tip it in on rails and
yeah,
get caught up in the dirty air from the guy in front because he's got so much drag on the back. And now there's fuck all aero that you can go around side by side, but you're going to walk into each other. That's exactly what happened in race 2, where um Waters Brownie got
Oh, with Anton
bang
and
bang bang.
LeBrock.
Um, no, not that one. I'm not thinking about that. Was Saturday. I'm thinking about the next race where uh who was on the inside? It went a little bit wide, clattered into Waters, who slid into Reynolds, I think, and they all sort of slid off at turn 2 together.
Oh
Because
yeah,
the bloke, who was it on the inside that went in a little bit hot and slid because the cars don't have the same grip. It's only mechanical grip. Cold tires, you're gonna drift wide. And
yeah,
look at Willie Brown up at Sydney going around the outside of turn 1 on cold tires off the start line trying to make because he had a poor quality. That's not the place to be when you've got 3 cars on the inside because someone's going to make inside contact and you're the guy on the outside. You got
yeah.
no
You're
one to
always going
lean
to
on.
be. Yeah,
You're off in the grass. I think it was him and Reynolds ended out going for a little bit of a spin at the end of turn 1 on the Sydney race
yeah. But
because
but that's
that's
what
not
we
the
want.
place to be. Not the place
We
to be.
we like I think that the thing wrong with it at the moment is the fact that for for your especially quality in that you're definitely wringing the neck more. But like Shane was saying in the races, it's the opposite. Yeah, everyone's having to just conserve. the whole time because they
Yes.
know that the tires are going to go, and then once the tires are gone, like just the whole. We want to see guys that are pushing hard all the time, making mistakes, and then like we don't want to see them all playing the long game and going, okay, we've got to the first 10 laps, we're not going to pass this
But
guy,
you
we've got
got
to
to
still look
do
out for the
that.
tires.
If you want to win a championship, consistency will win you a championship.
Yeah,
You can't just have it crash and bash, win it a bit. Like if Rowan was on this conversation, he'd be on your side of the fence going, nah, we want to see him bashing into each other and bumping, running and hitting and running and door to door smashing. Yeah, we want to see overtaking and racing, but we kind of these cars are so fragile at the moment. We all know that. You can't go wheel to wheel anymore because you're going to tear out your steering arm or ruin your
yeah.
steering rack. And at the moment, steering racks are the component that's failing on both sides of the
Oh,
engineering problem. So,
yeah,
you cannot afford to have the same level of wheel to wheel or side to side contact anymore because of the engineering on these
yeah,
front suspension. Having the rack a forward mounted rack instead of a rear mounted rack behind the cross member. Where
yeah.
you're pulling the wheel to turn now instead of pushing the wheel to turn like in the previous
Yeah, yeah,
cars.
exactly right.
So it's a lot
It's
more
just so much.
protected. It's a lot more protected on the inside for the cross member. They didn't get that particularly right. Plus, we're using steering racks out of a Toyota Hi-Ace, so I don't think they're actually strong enough. We should get those NASCAR ones because they'll bolt
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
in, and they are tough. They've already done the pain. They've done the hard work.
Oh, again, you just got to look at some of the NASCAR racing. They have some serious contact, and like you look at the race. When we were watching when Shane and Brody were over.
Yeah.
I think every car finished that race. I think, and there was a fair bit of contact, and there was like there was a fair few moments, but everyone still were able to keep going. And that's something that I think is
Well,
quite
what about
disappointing at the moment.
Chicago, the first one? They kept plowing into, burying themselves into the tire walls. Kyle Busch went in 3 times or something. He just pulled the
Yeah,
car
yeah,
out and
yeah,
kept going. He's got
exactly.
he's got wheel on the friggin' top of the bonnet at the windscreen. He's gone in 3 tires deep.
Exactly. And but those cars, they just seem to keep going. And that's what we like to see because I think back to, 2014 Bathurst, like if we had the cars that we have today, when Paul Morris buried it at turn two, Chaz's car, that would have been race over.
Yeah.
But those cars were tougher then and they were able to pull Chaz's car out. They were able to recover and then they won the race. We want to still see those opportunities. And that's kind of the worry. And I think a lot of people are worried about the endurance season for that very reason. Because,
100%
you
we
got
are.
this,
It's mechanical
you've got these
failure.
exactly, and they're long races. Like right now, we haven't done very many long races this year, and it's really going to put a lot of stress on the car, and especially you look at Sandown with the curbs. What's going to
Oh,
happen there
three,
with all these
four.
steering racks?
Seriously,
Like there's
turn two, three, turn 2, 3, and 4. Those control arms are not going to survive. I've driven
no,
those. I've done those. I've done that curb hopping, mate. They are about a foot high.
yeah,
They're literally gutters. They're not necessarily curbs. They're actually like a road gutter with a
yeah,
slight profile on it. And they just go straight up and over. They jump over it.
exactly. And what do they expect? Like what do you think is going to happen? And Bathurst, the amount of stress that goes over the car through the whole lap for 6 hours.
Yep.
Like it's going to be such a. I really really hope it doesn't come down to mechanical failure that decides the winners of these races because
Well, it's
you know
going to
it,
decide
it
the championship.
well, and that's the other thing. Like you look at
Depending on who it happens, because we've got 300-point races coming up.
yeah.
With your co-driver trying to get in the tiniest little hole that they've ever tried. Like I went for a little hot lap with Declan Fraser in his Mustang up at
That's right in
Townsville.
Townsville, wasn't it? Yeah,
Tiny little hole, like to get in. I'm only a small dude. Like you've got another foot of me. You're like Garth Tander, and
yeah,
um, these guys that get in and out of their cars, they've only got to do it one time.
yeah,
They get in, they go to the grid, they race, they get out. That's it. So there's no
yeah.
time pressure for them to get in and out, doing driver
Ex-
swaps and putting your seat inserts and trying to fold yourself into a deck chair and insert yourself and unfold yourself like under time, like while the
oh,
fuel, like covering while fuel's covering your driver change or the pads are covering your time. And these things are tiny, and they've changed all the rules, obviously, for people to do hot laps for the teams now. You've got to be less than 6 foot tall. You've got to be less than 90 kilos. And people are going, oh, yeah, whatever, I can fit. I did one before. Dude, you're not fitting in the bar work.
yeah. Oh,
Like
I
you're not
couldn't
fitting
believe
in
it.
the bar work. You just got to like unless you're a racer who was doing because they're just talking about general punters like me who don't race.
Yeah,
They just get in and
yeah,
get
but
out of a car 1-2 times a year.
yeah.
But if you're big and tall, yeah, there's no way you're getting in that bar work in any manner. You're gonna get cramped up, stuck, wedged. Like
Oh,
it's gonna be an absolute cluster. So yeah,
I
that's why
can't
they
tell
have
you
to
how long.
shrink everyone's size.
Well, that's it. I can't tell you how long it took me to get in and out of the wildcard car last year. Like I jumped in the 51 car on the Tuesday, and
Mm.
it took me I don't know how many times to fold in and then fold out, and Richie had to help get me out of there. And that was the that was the older generation. So
Yeah,
like, and then
that had heaps of room, dude. That had heaps of
well,
room.
that's exactly right. So again, you look at that. I'm 6'4", so I have got a lot of height on me. But like, and these new gen are just a next level. They've been
Your
condensed
head
that
will
much.
actually be sitting and touching the actual roof. The profile is so much lower in
Yeah,
these
yeah,
seats.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
your helmet will be sitting basically grazing the top of the roof there.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all these kind of factors, and like Sandown again, doing the driver changes, they're going to be, on the other side. Well, like it's going to be a lot harder,
Yeah, the spike
doing it.
guys on the driver's side. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because they've got
like,
fuel guy and tire guys on the other side. So getting access from the passenger side is going to be a real pain in the butt. So they're
oh, that's it. And there's all these kind of factors that we're gonna see going into the longer races, and it's going to be so interesting, and we've got other things we're going to be seeing as well. With now that they can adjust the pedal boxes, we're seeing, that's
that's a
why
lot
Reynolds
easier.
and
That makes a
well,
big
that's it.
difference.
Well, that's it. And, we're going to be seeing that in action. Like Tanner and Reynolds wouldn't have paired up together if they didn't have that option this year. I can guarantee that they would have put Tanner with Payne. And even the Richie Shane scenario, I don't know if that would have happened in the last year's generation because there is a big height
There
difference in
is.
those two guys.
There is.
So, like, for those kind of, this year that opens that up, but it is going to be another variable to see how that all kind of works. And it's going to be very interesting. And there's a lot to go down in these endurance races, something different. There's going to be a lot of niggly problems, I find. I think there are going to be things that are going to need to be changed probably going into Bathurst or, little adjustments just to make it work because, yeah, there's going to be a lot of load on those cars and yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how it all unfolds. And you really hope that a mechanical failure doesn't ruin the campaign of one of these guys
Oh, it's
because,
going to. I have
because,
no doubt at all that
well,
something
that's
is
it.
going to fail on
And all,
somebody's car. There is no
well,
doubt in
that's
my
it.
mind.
And all four of the main kind of guys that are in the championship at the moment, well, you can go six if you wanted Mostert and Waters as well, roped in there. But
I'd put them into that.
it's yeah. Well, especially with again the mechanical problems that
Yep.
could venture, But
Yep.
it would be such a shame if you saw something like Brody's been driving magnificent this year. He's done such a great job, and it would be so sad to see a campaign like that get halted, and him go from 100 point up to 400 point down or whatever it may be, something like that due to something that
Well, he had steering
really,
rack issues at the bend.
well, that's it, and how
And
many has
this is not
Shane
the
had?
first rack they've had. Like everyone's had racks. Shane
Oh,
Triple Eight ran out of racks.
exactly.
They put a
So
rack in every session and just went down to one of their customer teams and said, "Right, I need your rack. Give it back."
exactly, is that going to be part of the new Bathurst? The long stops they do
Yeah,
do the pads and
could
everything, and then they do a steering rack.
could
Like
be, could be.
it's
Like hour 3, you pull in, you do brake pads, fuel, and steering rack.
exactly,
And you shoot off again.
exactly.
Brad
Is that the
Jones
new
will be doing a
reality?
quick release. He'll be doing quick release couplings and a quick
Yeah,
release bolt on down there.
there you go. There you go. This is something that might have to look at. Who knows? But there's all these variables, and
Or you
it's
just
going to
get
be
a good
so
one that
interesting.
doesn't fail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm just praying that like
So
that
order them on
that
Amazon. Go to NASCAR.co. Order them on Amazon. They'll be here in like 4 days.
yeah,
Just order. Can I
done
please
deal.
have 50 steering racks, please? And
Exactly.
ship them
But
over.
it's just a shame that it looks like we're going to have to go through an endurance campaign where people are going to be really affected. And
I have no doubt.
hopefully they're going to learn from it. But it's just a shame, that a lot of these issues haven't been fixed coming into the endurance season because
And it's
this is
not
going to
like
be the
it's a
real.
secret. Like they've been having the issues for the majority of the season already with the steering racks. This is a known engineering issue, but they haven't addressed it because they get, once again, they're going, well, you've all just spent all this money on steering racks and this is our cost. And we're trying to keep the cost down, even though we doubled the cost of the car because we
Yeah,
can't,
yeah,
we should be in government. Like you build a road for $1 million and it costs you $400 million.
yeah,
And
yeah, exactly.
so,
But
yeah,
you know, it's just one of those things that I really hope we can stay optimistic, but I think it is going to end up hampering people. And the thing is, we haven't even seen really the two worst tracks when it comes to curb smashing. You'd be looking at Sandown and
and
Gold
down
Coast, and
Gold Coast.
we
Yep.
haven't got to them yet.
No,
And look at the issues we've already had. It's bloody scary to think what's going to happen in these next couple of months, and I really really hope that all
oh,
these
don't
all these
forget the
guys.
chicane at Adelaide. If we haven't destroyed the cars
Oh
by the Gold Coast, we've still got that.
yeah,
Still got
exactly.
that, the end of the straight chicane at Adelaide, where they just love to get out. And if the steering rack's not working well, the wall at 8 will eat you. If you
Exactly.
if you've got low grip and you've got poor steering at the time, and you're coming around 8, you are
She's
in
over.
that wall.
She's over, and that's the worrying thing, and I think we're all hoping that they would have kind of ironed out a few of these things by the time we got to this time of year, but it looks like we're still fighting against it, and that's why again we're just going to kind of have to see it unfolds, and hopefully they get onto it as soon as possible. The options are out there,
Yeah.
the solutions I think are in arm's reach. They've just got to make the decision. Again, it's so hard because of the amount
Line
of
it up
costs
for
and everything
next
already.
year. I mean, they've got to try
It
to
is.
run this one out without an asterisk applied because you never know. It could be an asterisk year. Being the Camaro Cup as
Well,
fans have been
that's
calling
it.
it.
It is, and it's that whole thing of like, back in 2019, when
Yep,
Scotty
asterisk year
McLaughlin, the
again. It was the
Mustangs,
Mustang Cup.
that's it. And in the end, you can't take it out of those drivers which are doing this, having this success. You look at Brody now, Scott back then. You can't take anything away from those drivers because in the end, they're driving a car
They're still going to
the
drive
best
it.
they can. They're doing a great job, and you can't take that away from them. And it's the category that are the ones to blame for not having the parity like they should. That's on them. They're supposed to have the parity sorted, but they don't. So don't blame the driver or the teams. Don't go, oh, the bloody Kostecki, or blame it on because they're still doing a bloody good job. They
Yep.
deserve the accolades that they get, but like we just need these other guys to get it sorted, get this parity sorted. We've had it before. We'll probably have it again at some point. It's something that's always going to throw its head. We're a
In
paddock
2026, once we go to another model car, because
exactly, and we're a
we'll
parity
just have
series
this one
that's
right
always.
by then.
Well, that's it, and let's hope that by that time we've got owners that really get into it early, make a decision early. Gen 3 was in development for a long time. It just took them way too long to actually put their finger on a concept and actually start getting into it.
The
And
COVID
that's where,
delayed it also by 18 months in implementation as well.
well, that's it. All these things and a lot of these things should have been ironed out a lot earlier before the cars got to the grid. We should have never really started the season with a car that was obviously a step above the other. And yeah, it just makes it a lot harder, and I really hope going forward, they learn from it. And with any luck, like I'm a bit biased, but I would love to see a different owner. I think so far, or just a different. They need someone in there that can make the decisions, but can also take the fall for things that go wrong. Because
Well, that's what we don't have. We've got a Scaife at the moment who's leading everyone like a bull with a ring through his nose. He's leading race around by the nose.
ex- you know,
And
you look back in the day, Tony Cochran. He was
yeah,
the head of Supercars.
he
He
was.
if stuff went wrong, he copped it, and if stuff went right, he got the praise.
Yeah, but
But
he also
he
said
made
to
the
the
decisions.
commission, he also said, we're going to turn this sport from like a little backwater third tier national sport in Australia. We're going to, because he's a promoter. He wasn't a
Yeah,
motorsport guy. He's a events promoter. And
yeah,
he
he
turned it
is.
into in a matter of, well, I think it was around for about, what, 17 years or something?
Yeah, yeah. It
Um,
was what 1997 to would have been 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. I think around the start of COF. I think
yeah,
like
sounds about right. 15,
yes,
yeah,
somewhere
about
around
that.
there. I think
About that
yeah,
before Warburton came along. Anyway, he turned it into I think it started off at a $7 million sport or less into like 60 million bucks or something. He just, or more. Well, hang on.
Yeah,
No, 200. No, it's 200. Put it into $240 million sport. And I think it started at like dozen, like handful, because he told the team's commission to shut up. We're doing it my way. I will listen to your complaints and I will take it all on board, and then let's all pull the direction that I say. And
yeah,
at the moment, we've got the tail wagging the dog.
yeah,
We've got the commission involved in way too many decisions as far
yeah,
as the administration of the sport is concerned, where they should be limited to having an opinion, but not the final decision.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's exactly right. They should be able to
Go back
say their
to
part,
like
but
deciding on race days and safety and setup and like looking at sort of cars and engineering and operational things to make the cars race
yeah,
and put your and like budgets and all of that and costs and all of that. Like you can have all of that. But as far as the direction of the sport, how often we're going, where we're going, how many people are in the cars, how many teams we have, like the restrictions on who's coming in, and like all of that is not in
yeah.
the domain of the teams.
No, no, not at
You
all.
you you just worry about racing your cars. The things that actually you need to put in place to get your car on the track, and that's budget and logistics and the features of the car and all of that. You can have all of that input. You can have all of that control.
Yeah,
But when it comes down to how many cars are on the grid, how many teams we've got, how many events we're going to do on the calendar, no. You
yeah,
leave that to the supercars.
yeah. I completely agree.
And if
Yeah,
and if Shane Howard, who is a Sean Seamer clone,
yeah,
um, unfortunately, if they can't get their stuff done, we have a board over the top called race.
yeah,
And if they want to have an overriding direction, then supercars have to do what the board want.
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
owners, they're
Exactly.
the owners.
Yeah,
Now, if they don't have the intellectual capital to understand what that is, and so their decisions are going to take us into ridiculous areas like 24 car grid, not expanding but reducing, limiting the number of TRCs because we signed that on the charter because we didn't know what we were doing because we're idiots. And then
Singapore.
Singapore, and then not just Singapore, like even the other thought bubble. We'll build a second set of cars and we'll leave them overseas. So when we do go overseas, we don't have to transport them, they're already there. So that will bring in Singapore and Malaysia, and like we can go to Thailand, and like we can race like an international Southeast Asia
Yeah,
series with a series of cars that we will build. Now, these guys can't even buy these cars yet. They can't even afford the ones that we've got, but they
yeah,
want to
yeah,
build a duplicate set of cars and leave them parked up in a shed at I don't know whose cost. And
yeah,
then when you're making all of your adjustments and your tweaks and your changes to these cars, then you fly your teams over with your toolboxes. You have to replicate what you've done on the car back over here, pulling it out of mothballs and
yeah,
use it, what, 2-3 times a year? I mean, come on. This is the kind of lunacy that we're getting out of some thought bubbles that
yeah,
are coming out of the owners. And then you got Scaife out there telling everybody, look, don't look over here, look over there. We're still the number one category in Australia. Well, dude, I think you've got more problems than you think, because I go to all the Shannons and ARG rounds, and I'm telling you right now, for $40 a ticket or $50 a ticket for the weekend, and you get 6, 7, 8 categories of racing, of national
yeah,
class racing. Now,
yeah,
the S5000s have their own issues. We know that, not enough cars, and they don't pass well. They're about to get pulled apart anyway. I think Barry's going to have to pull them apart and throw them in the bin because the category's failing. But
mm,
you got TCR, TCM, Fanatec GTs, like World GTs. You got Kumo racing cars if you love the old stuff, the old
yeah,
supercars. You've got them zooming
yeah,
around. You'll also have like a production class going around as well on the category. So you go there for $50 for the weekend, and you don't have all the bells and whistles. You don't have the big screen TVs to watch the track action, but yeah, you got your trackside radio, you got the full stand coverage, which isn't full. They need to improve that.
Yeah.
They need to improve that, not just start the coverage from when the TCRs first hit the track. All the supports that have been on in the morning prior to that session need to be shown. And
Yeah.
Friday's a real pain in the ass not showing anything from Friday at all. So you can't see any of the practice or even the first race of the TCMs or whatever,
Yeah.
because they start race one at the end of the day. Well, it might be improved production or something, but whatever. You've got a couple of tweaks to make there with that broadcasting. But compare that to supercars, mate. Scafey, I think all you're doing is alienating a lot of your fan base by leading race in these decisions to be so bloody minded where you're putting roadblocks in for the development of the sport,
Yeah.
actively going against everything that any fan is asking for on any single poll or questionnaire about what they want to see in supercars.
Yeah.
And they are actively doing the opposite.
Exactly. And they can't plead the ignorance, because in the end, they have got all that at their fingertips.
Facebook,
anyone can jump
they
on
get
social
slammed
media.
daily on Facebook.
Exactly.
They
They can
get
go on
told.
5 minutes on social media and they would know exactly what the fans want to see. It's
know.
not hard to find. And what's happening is they've got that fantastic avenue to be able to get all this information, but they're just not using it. Or
They're
if they
not
are
listening.
using it, they're using it the wrong way.
They're not listening. They're not listening.
Exactly.
Because
exactly.
These are the same people who sacked Larko because he was being too technical.
Oh.
He's the only idiot. Sorry, that's the wrong word. That's no.
Yeah. Oh, Larko's
Scafey's the idiot. Scafey's the only idiot that is trying to be too technical with his little in-jokes and talking about stuff on the commentary to prove everybody that he used to be a race car driver and he knows all the technical stuff. Whereas Larko's the one that turns it into usable information that everybody who's never driven a race car, never been to a garage, never held a spanner, but just likes watching cars go fast, can understand what they're talking about and what the teams are talking about and the commentators are talking about. Complex engineering concepts, complex parts and the systems of a car. He makes it accessible and understandable because he's a communicator.
Exactly. And everyone, right from a hardcore fan to a new fan, can enjoy and understand what he's saying. And and that's a big part. And I think all these things of this kind of Scaife selling the false story and that, and it does when you know what's really going on. And anyone can really see the state that it's in at the moment. It hurts even more to just kind of hear week in, week out that it's Gen 3 is just the best thing ever, and like that.
No.
It's all good, when really it's not.
Spitting a lie,
and I think that's what's really annoying the fans is the fact that they're still trying to sell it as this fantastic problemless category, which is just so far from the truth. It's not even funny.
My mate, who I will not name, was absolute avid. He's a member of teams and he's an avid fan, goes to the racetracks, saves up his money, works out which ones he can go to. Can't go to all of them at all, but he's got a couple that he come and we catch up and we party for the week and we just have an absolute time of our life. And he is completely, as of now, disengaged. Absolutely doesn't give a rat's butt. Didn't even watch the last two rounds. Like, doesn't even care because the whole thing is such a basket case, and he's just fed up with the situation as it is at the moment. I was talking to him last week, and because I was going up for the Sydney round, and he's going, like I didn't even watch the last round, I know who won and stuff, and I might just watch the highlights, but I'm not sitting down for the day to watch it like I used to. I said, mate, I just can't get into it. Can't get into it at all. It's like it's just pissed me off, it's just I'm sort of done with it. Like I'll watch Bathurst and stuff, but I don't really care. And then I was starting to talk to him and saying about the end of this season, how exciting the end of this season is because the competition between Triple Eight and Erebus.
Erebus.
At that point, Will hadn't had his shocker yet because he was sitting 1 and 2 as well. And we had Shane and Brock just parked up behind us, and then then you got Chaz and Waters in the race. Like, but the points gap is like closing and stuff, and it's getting really exciting. And especially with the teams championship, Erebus might be able to pinch front row in the garages, or if at best, at worst, second.
We'll
be sitting right behind them, which will be either way, we're going to be next to each other next year, Red
Yeah,
Bull
yeah,
and
exactly.
Erebus.
Yeah,
So they're going to have to be waving to Will Brown every time he gets in his car
yeah, yeah,
next year.
exactly.
And they'll be like trying to work out, are we going to be sharing, driving through whoever's got the two garage?
Yeah,
Can we use your pit box to come in, to slide through?
yeah.
And
Oh,
there might
there'll
be
no
the odd
doubt be a bit
moment
of
when
gamesmanship there.
yeah, if the competition's getting a little bit tight, I wouldn't be surprised if whoever's in the second garage, when they're bringing the other guys bring their car in, they just set up. They put their tires out there, go, oh, sorry, no, we're coming in too. Oh, no, we changed our mind. And just make
Yeah,
them come around.
exactly. Come around, park at an
You're
average
not coming
angle.
through. You're not
Yeah,
coming
make
through.
make
No
life a bit
way.
harder. And
No way.
and that's cool. We want that kind of camaraderie, and I enjoy that kind of stuff. We yeah, you are trying to kind of dig at the guys next door and have that
You
competition.
don't want to give them
It's
an advantage.
well, that's it. That's it.
Because there's
And
no
the day
advantage
that you
gained, and you have
do,
to work, and be polite and get along because that it is. But when one of the blokes is saying, well, he's gone to live with the family up the road that you hate, like,
yeah, yeah, you gotta have some fun with it,
and
and
they've been
that's
throwing protests at each other all year, tit for tat.
yeah. And it's been like that for donkey's years. Like there were times when it was
Yeah,
Stone
but it's
Brothers and
between Shell and
HRT
it's
and
been between Shell and DJR.
yeah,
I mean
or
Shell
yeah,
and Triple A.
DJR and
Yeah,
yeah, Triple
DJR
Eight
and
and
Triple A. It's between those two at the top of the pops.
yeah, and then before that it was FPR, and Triple Eight, and then before that, and it was constantly there's
Yeah, the
always
pre-Penske years.
yeah, exactly. And it's always that kind of, and that's what we want. We want to see these guys that are, thinking about all these little one percenters as well and seeing where they can be a little cunning and take that little advantage. And, that's
Well, they
part of the
are playing
sport.
for sheep stations. They truly are playing for sheep stations at this
They
point.
are. They
It's
are.
worth big dollars. It's worth big sponsorship dollars. It's worth a lot of airtime because the successful teams get all the airplay.
Exactly, and for Erebus especially, Triple Eight they've won everything. They like it's nothing new to them. But for Erebus and for Brody Kostecki and Will Brown, these are guys and Brock Feeney with the Triple Eight. These are guys that haven't won before. They
Yep.
they desperately Will Brown desperately wants to finish off his Erebus tenure with
Yeah.
a win. Like what better way to
Absolutely.
finish it off as a thank you? And for Brody, he wants to win it so that way next year he can have the number one car on the Erebus,
Yeah.
the Erebus machine, and then
Yep.
you got Shane wanting to leave, by taking the trophy, taking the championship with him essentially. And
Well, that's
then
going
yeah,
to
Brock's
convert into contract dollars. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
legitimately going to be worth
yeah.
contract exposure dollars over in the US for his new
What
ventures.
100%. And then Brock's the same thing. He wants to
He's
show that
starting his
he's ready
career.
to be
He's
the
been
team
out
leader.
driving Shane all year.
He has. And so, you've got all these agendas and everyone's wanting to do it for a certain reason. And, the Ford guys and behind that, both of them would be desperate to try kind of get one back on the Camaro guys, and try get some kind of result out of this year. And so there's so much kind of,
This is
building
why it's
into this.
interesting.
And
I was saying this is exactly the
yeah,
convo I had with my mate, exactly in these terms as well. And I'm going, he goes, oh, you've got me back now. Like as we were discussing it, like he's going, oh yeah, now I'm excited. Like now because when you put it like that, like because you have to dig in because just
yeah,
visually watching watching the race on the TV is nothing a great deal of excitement going on. Just as a
nah,
general. Like if you were walking into the room, you watch 5 laps and walk out and you come back, like there's nothing really there that you go, oh, I've just got to stop and sit on the edge of my seat.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So you have to
exactly.
dig into this back end stuff to try to find where the interest is to put context around what's happening out there to wrap it up, to
Yeah,
make it, to get invested, but you need to be invested to go to that level.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And
And that's
people are
why I think
divesting. Fans are divesting from the sport.
exactly. But like so many people, they don't understand that kind of depth and what's going on.
They just don't
And
care.
well, that's it. And then they'll go to something
They look
else
at the
that they know
ladder
they can
and they look at the
understand.
number of points and they see who's on top and how many points are there. And they go, yeah, whatever. Oh, well, these guys, they're not doing any well. They're not going to do very well. And then they're not invested because they look at all the blues and go, yeah, well, they're too far back. Their cars aren't fast enough. They're not really in the hunt. You could be sitting 300 points behind with another 1,700 points to be on offer. And you go,
Yeah,
yeah, but they don't really have a chance. So we're just looking at, it's Brody, Shane, it's Erebus and Red Bull. That's all that's going to happen. And that's what the dialogue's been all year. It's just
yeah,
Erebus and Red Bull. And Erebus have the pressure of success now,
Yep.
which is new. Red Bull have the pressure of failure
Yep. Yeah.
because
Exactly right.
they're not used to being where they are against a non-Penske team,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they don't like it
Yeah. Exactly right.
because they're being shown up by a non-customer team, but it's another
Yeah. Yeah.
Camaro team. So,
Exactly. And that for them, they're expected to be the top Chevy team.
of course they are.
Just in the same way that DJR is expected to be the main,
Exactly.
the lead forward. And
It's
when that
different
doesn't
now, though,
happen,
because with the new Ford funding model, all the Ford teams were getting the same level of factory support.
yeah,
So that's a big difference this year. So WAU, Grove, Tickford, and Shell, there's not a Ford factory team, which was Penske, old Penske. Now the new model is everybody gets the same. All the Ford teams are getting the same from Ford.
yeah,
Camaro side of the fence is no. We have one 888 factory back Camaro team, GM back team. The rest
yeah,
of you don't get GM support. You just do it on your own, which is one of the big reasons Grove went over to the Mustang product when they left from Nissan, and
exactly,
not
because they knew that they could actually get factory support.
at the time. At the time, it wasn't the new modeling hadn't come out, but the conversations were the Mustang obviously was a better package at the time when and
Yeah,
then the ZB, and the plan was, the talks were that there was going to be this new generic support for all Ford teams from the manufacturer rather than just having a one team, like the old
yeah,
HSV or HRT, and now it went to 888, and now it's just DJR was the factory back. Now everybody. So
exactly.
they get that. So those Ford teams are all looking at each other. That's why Ford's cracking the shit so much, because their brand is getting hurt internationally
Oh, and the fact that
as
they've
a
put so much
racing brand.
investment into it, and then just to get this kind of result out of it, that's got to be so disheartening. They've put all this time and effort into it just to kind of, turn on the TV and watch the blue at the bottom of the table. Like that. That's got to be hard, and that's
Well,
why
that's the
they've pulled out.
conversation they're actually having with supercars to say, you fix this or we're pulling out. We're not going to
Yeah,
jeopardize our brand for what you claim as a new state is the premier category of racing in Australia, and we're
yeah,
supporting you, and you're giving us this, and you won't even show us the data. Whereas in the States with NASCAR, every team
yep,
gets everybody else's data.
exactly,
It's an open stock field. So if you're doing something amazing and making up time over here or losing time over there, every other team has access to that to see where the good guys are making up time or might be
exactly,
losing time, or where you are in comparison to all of that's an open book,
yeah,
which is why it's a stock car category. You have the same car, you put a different shell on top, everyone's sharing all the data. It comes down to the setup engineering
the
um,
driver,
and your driver, but their rules for engineering are more like here's a box of parameters. You
yeah,
make your own car to fit within all of these parameters. You can do whatever the hell you want as
yeah,
long as it's not outside these parameters. And if you
yeah,
make a bad car, sucks to be you.
yeah,
You
yeah,
you go
exactly.
back and remake again. And they don't make just one car.
No,
The drivers have got five or six cars because they can't just they don't have the time to ship one car to the next
yeah,
circuit next week. They've got cars on the move all the time, and then some are in the workshop getting repaired. So the driver's not in the same car every week,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
depending on where the next round is. And they've only got to got to bump out and drive, bump in, and pull out the truck, go to practice for 15 minutes, and then quali race.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right.
So
Exactly
here's
right. So,
here's your rules. Like they've got, their budgets are way bigger because economies of scale, just the sheer number of
oh,
people in the States,
that's it. And just the sponsorship
and the
behind it.
cost of
And
everything over there is a lot less than physically than it is the cost to build over here and stuff. So we get all of that, but their
yeah,
model. Now I hope Shane Howard went over there last week with his supercars guys to go watch Brody and Shane race and hang out with the NASCAR guys, because they did. I hope
yeah,
they shut their mouths and listened.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I really
Just
do. I
ask
really
ask
hope,
some
mate.
dumb questions like you are a dumb school kid, because literally listen to how they run their sport. Listen to how they achieve what they can achieve. Listen to the problems that they've had and they've overcome, and how, like with personnel and timing and
Yep.
calendars and scheduling and resourcing and sponsorships, and I hope they came home with a dossier
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
of how
exactly.
NASCAR works, from how NASCAR make it work, and then
Yeah,
pick the eyes out of that and have a look and see what we need to do or replicate here, instead of making pissant excuses that we don't
yeah,
have any money because we've spent it all in the wrong areas.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and
exactly.
and what it is, I don't know if you've worked in a medium-sized business before, maybe 10 to 20 employees,
Yeah, yeah, I
right?
have. Yep.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So I've worked in a few of those, and some that are smaller than 10 as well. And when a business is starting to struggle, their largest cost is usually wages,
Yep. Correct.
right? Especially in the service industry. So somebody gets sacked or quits. To save money, the company doesn't replace them.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they save
exactly.
those wages, right? So they've
Yeah,
reduced their workforce by one, and they save all that money, which they use as cash flow and operating. Um, but that means that workload now gets shifted to the remainder.
yeah,
So then they get to work a little bit harder. They don't see it as fair because they don't get paid anymore to have to do more work, and they haven't got the replacement for the person who left. So somebody there cracks the shits and quits.
yeah,
So now the company goes, well, we really do need someone, but we still manage to function with one down. So we'll be able to function with two. They're just going to have to suck it up because we're going to save that money too. And as you
yeah,
start chipping away, the pressures that are pushed down onto the ones that are remaining increase. And then you
yeah,
have an exodus, and then you have a failed business. Rather
yeah,
than investing in the business in the right areas, increasing your capital, and then being able to expand. And because the smaller your workforce, the less opportunities your sales force has to sell your product, because you can't meet the demand even if you've got the fucking contract,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because you
exactly.
don't have the resources. So
Yeah,
now
to be
you are
able to actually do
limiting
it.
yourself. You are limiting your profile, and your business is diminishing while you're trying. And even if someone says, can you come and do this for me? You just go, I can't, because I don't have the people I had before, because I let them go because I wanted to save money, because I don't know how to run a business. Supercars is having this attitude now by diminishing the number of cars, maintaining the number of teams and not expanding,
Yeah,
reducing the number of tracks that people can get an opportunity to go to. How are you going to
exactly.
sell more sponsorship to dollars, or ask sponsors to pay more money on a reduced calendar?
Yeah, exactly right. They're getting less for their money, and you're wanting more for it. Like,
So
how's how's
next year we go, oh, the sponsors they're paying this much. Oh, we were going to go to 18 rounds. Okay, well, that means that your sponsorship has to go up 50%. We're racing from 12 to 18. You've just now got a 50% increase on what you had.
yeah?
You don't get that for free.
No, no, exactly right.
You got to pay for that, because you are paying by the hour.
Yeah,
So we're gonna bill you 200 hours. Now we're going to bill you 300 hours next year. So your per hour rate is this. Here's the bill.
yeah, yeah, exactly right.
Oh, we don't want to spend that much money, but that's okay. We're going to go find somebody else who does want 300 hours of exposure. So you're happy to piss off the entire season's worth of your exposure and your branding to someone else, because you don't want to pay more for the product that is the same as what you're getting now. Like, you need to pay for it. You don't get it for nothing. We don't just give it to you for free.
No,
Why
no,
are they not having these conversations? Why are we
no.
diminishing our sport
Exactly right. It just makes no sense, and that's why again we're
and spending money in the
needing.
wrong areas, i.e., fucking Singapore?
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. Chasing a dream that's never going to work. You know, we've done that before. You know, we've gone over to Bahrain,
Yep.
Dubai.
Yep.
What happened to Kuala Lumpur? You know, we were supposed to go over there, and that never happened. We went to Kota, you know, in America. That was supposed to be a few-year deal. We went there
I
once.
think we went there once, but I think that actually was it kind of worked. People got to look at us, but they didn't understand what they were looking at because they thought they were NASCARs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And but you know, it's the whole thing. If you haven't got the fan base there, you know, you look at say Formula One, they're going to America more because the fan base is now there.
Yeah, but they
They've
built it up off the Netflix documentary. They did all the pre-work.
yeah,
for
That's exactly
years.
right. So a supercar is going to be selling it to people that live in Singapore?
Well,
No,
no, they are not because they're there to
you
watch
know,
F1.
exactly. They're gonna arrive in Singapore, and the people that are sitting in the fan stands are just going to be like, oh, look, Formula One is now off track. It's some
Yep.
random cars we don't even know what they
F-
are.
Well, it's
We're going to go
F1,
get some.
it's F2, and it's F3 because they're taking all those three categories to Singapore. We are
Yeah,
the third string support category. And another thing, when supercars pump out and go, oh, it's great for international sponsor branding and sponsor exposure and stuff, not 1 minute of the Australian round of F1 at Melbourne Grand Prix was shown on Sky Sports internationally. Not 1 minute. There
there you
is
go.
no coverage into Europe or Asia or America on the Sky Sports F1 of any supercars support category, not 1 minute.
Yeah.
And
So
they're
again,
lying to all the fans saying that this is why we want to do it for international exposure. To who? The only international part of this is you're in Singapore beaming it back to Australia and New Zealand.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
watching our
exactly right.
domestic round as a support category with friggin' 12 laps or something of crappy racing.
Yep, which will be
Um,
under safety car for half it probably.
oh, and if it rains, well, forget it.
Oh,
This
it's
is
Singapore, so there's bound to be accidents of that as well, and
exactly right. But you want to, like you said, that we're not looking to build a fan base in Singapore. We're not building a fan base in Asia or Southeast Asia or Europe. We are not selling our brand over there on the back of an F1 broadcast.
yeah, exactly.
It's a
So
it's a fool's errand, complete
yeah,
fool's errand.
yeah. So what are they to benefit from it? Nothing, and that's
Well,
maybe they
the
can
only one
start.
who's benefiting is Nettlefold, so he can swing his dick with his mates in the top end of global marketing because I'm a sports marketer and I've done nothing for the domestic category, but now I want to go and hang out with my F1 friends and pretend that I play in the same circles. I mean,
Exactly.
bloody hell,
Ah, it's just so far out of reality, eh? It's not even
out of
funny, and that's
touch.
why I don't think I've seen one comment on Facebook of someone in support of the Singapore idea. I don't think I've
No,
seen one bloody comment because
we've
it's
asked a
just
question. We just got everyone just said, nah,
yeah, exactly. Because again, how are we
irrelevant.
going to benefit from it? How is
It's
any of us,
irrelevant.
like
In fact,
other
the
than
response to that question we put out completely was no, we need more domestic racing first. We need to fix the calendar here first before we look at going overseas.
exactly,
And
exactly,
I had three premises that I would agree to, like supporting an overseas round. One, it costs the category no money. We get paid to go door to
yeah,
door. Not one team, what one person is out of pocket $1.
yeah,
So that's the first thing. It costs us nothing. Two, it's not at the expense of a domestic round.
yeah, exactly,
Don't
yep.
cancel something.
Very, very important.
And Singapore being in September, because that's fixed, that moves the Sandown round around because you have to have Singapore between Sandown and Bathurst. So you go to Sandown, then you go to pack the cars up, bugger them off to Singapore, bring them back, prepare them just in time for Bathurst. That's the
Yeah,
scheduling, right? So that doesn't even work.
sorry, but yeah, exactly right. So yeah, it's just one of those things that I just I don't think any way really can we justify them doing it. So I think and from the rumor that seems to be I was reading a story about how the 2024 calendar's getting pieced together. At this point, it's looking like Singapore is not going to be next year.
No, that's
So
right.
that and that's a fortunate thing, and
You know
hopefully
why?
that that pardon
You know why?
was that
Well, it's not just because they're starting to realize that the fans hate the idea and the logistics. You know how they want to bring the cars back to 24. So that first of all relies on Tickford um
selling their
logging off
selling
too.
back their two
Or you
TRCs?
have to run it. This is another alternative which is unpopular. You leave two cars behind. So if you're in the drivers' championship, the bottom two at the drivers' championship don't go, and then you because we're only going to put 24 cars on a plane because we don't want to pay for two planes for like another plane for two cars.
Yeah,
Um, and or uh, the cradles that they put the cars in when they took them over to Dubai and they took them over to New Zealand and stuff, the old
Yeah.
ZBs, these cars don't fit in those cargo cradles. They
Oh,
have to make a whole lot of new. So even if they did go to 24 cars,
they still have to do that.
they have to build 24 more. I don't even know if we're taking safety cars and shit over there, if we're just taking sticker packs and just using local cars. I don't know whether they're going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
take
yeah.
the Marshall cars, but actually we won't be. They'll be using the Singapore track cars.
Oh, yeah, yeah, true.
But the cradles that we have to bolt the cars into to fit them into the back of the plane, these cars are too wide.
Ah, yep, yep.
So
That'd be right.
just by a fraction, it's like 100 mil or something. They're too wide to fit in these cradles. So even with the
Oh,
doors off and panels off and stuff. So they will have to so when saving cost for transport, they have to make 24 new frigging cradles.
yeah, and yeah, there's a
And they're
price
already
tag
broke.
bloody attached to that, mate. Yep,
So there's another waste of money in the wrong end.
yep, exactly right. It just doesn't make any sense, eh? Oh, I really hope, I'm hoping now that it's not happening next year. It's just one of those things that just fizzle out. Because it's never been a thing that should be anywhere. It's not on a priority list. There are so many other things that need to be worked on and fixed before we start to look anywhere like that.
Yeah, more
And
teams, more cars, and more tracks.
exactly.
Let's just
Over
do with
here,
that. Yeah,
you know,
domestic. Let's just
yeah,
do that
exactly.
first.
This part of the world, like we,
Focus
we
on the
don't need to
core.
venture out to where there's no fans.
Focus on the core. Get the cars right.
Yep.
So keep engineering them. They're very close now. They're not far away. They're very, very close. So they'll hopefully get that tucked away. But get the cars right. So they get your racing right. Get more
Yep.
teams, get more cars, and get more tracks
Yep.
domestically. Let's just worry about what we're grow the brand here. Get a better
Yep.
deal for broadcasting. Get a better deal
Yep.
for TV. Get more free to air so more people can come back. Or the KO deal is not a bad deal. Like if you can get the full KO package, and like the sport, it's quite cheap compared to the Foxtel, having a full Foxtel package for KO. So that's a pretty good option for people. But free to wear, they still want to scream because people still want everything for nothing. They don't want to pay for it, but they're already paying for
Yep.
streaming services, but they still want to pay for KO just to watch 12 rounds of supercars because it might be the only sport they give a shit about on KO.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Eh? And it's
So
it's a hard
25
thing to
bucks
kind
a
of
month,
justify.
25 bucks a month, 30 bucks a month for KO, whatever it is, to watch 12 rounds of racing. People go, yeah, whatever. Because half those rounds, the street circuits are free to wear because they're paid for
Anyway.
by the state governments. So you're really
Yeah.
paying for all of that just for half a dozen rounds. And people go, yeah, can't see
Exactly.
the
Eh?
value in it.
It's very hard to justify. Yeah.
They just can't see the value. So start giving people value back for the experience. Drop the ticket prices to go to the circuit because it's minimum 150 bucks to go for a weekend.
Yep.
Get rid of your paddock pass, your $30, $40 paddock pass. Open up the back of the pits. They don't use tickets as a massive revenue stream. It's not their primary revenue stream. It's a secondary revenue stream. And then there'd be merchandise after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly right. So
if you want people to
uh,
go back to the track, make it more affordable. Stop trying to gouge the food vendors five,
yeah.
10
Yeah.
grand to put your vans there. So they have to jack their $18 cheeseburgers up so that
Yeah.
they can try to break even before they make any money.
Exactly. Got
On
to make it win for all, eh?
and you can only sell cheeseburgers to people who are standing at the side of the circuit. If less people are turning up, you're not selling as many cheeseburgers, but supercars still want to put your hand in your pocket. You don't turn up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And then fans who do turn up go, there's nothing here to eat. There's no food. There's only two fans here. There's only two vans and there's no good food selection. Like it's a vicious circle. People won't go back because, or they'll bring their own food in and then if they can afford the ticket, it's a vicious cycle. The vendors don't make any money. It's a poor fan trackside experience.
Yep.
Supercars don't make more money because they're charging more for tickets and less people are going.
Yep.
So they're trying
Exactly.
to chase that budget that they've got by going, oh, we're only going to get 10,000, 15,000 people a day here. We have to charge them this much for our budget that we want to do. But if you wanted to get 30,000, if you drop the tickets by a third, you'll get double the number of people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. That's
Just for
it,
that,
eh? And
Like, you don't have to drop them in half to get double. It's not a linear relationship. It's not an inversely proportional linear relationship here. People will see perceived value. If it's $150 to go to the car race for a weekend for you, and you want to take your wife, there's $300. Take your 2 kids. If they're under 12, they're free. If not, you're paying concession prices for them.
Yeah.
Then you're buying food at the track, your $18 hamburgers or your $10 potatoes on a stick.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very expensive day out when you start looking $500 for a weekend for a family.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when
You want
there's
to
other
buy
options
shirts,
about,
$80,
like it.
this and this and this. You got to bring that race day expense down to about $150 for a family.
Yeah.
For a weekend.
Yeah. And
You got
that's
to bring
then
that
people.
down. Then they will come.
Yeah, exactly right, because it's actually justifiable.
They will see value. If your personal ticket price for you and I, because we're just single blokes, no kids and all that shit, we can just go. If I get charged $100 for 3 days, that's $30 a day. I go,
Yeah.
That's kind of reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. Can live with that.
Can live with that. $100. If it's $80 for a 2-day event, $40 a day, you go, okay, $80, guaranteed I'm coming and I'm bringing some mates.
Yeah.
Like, legit, it's $80. We're there from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night for $40 a day.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to watch all these categories go racing. We're coming.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like, the ticket sales go up. Oh, we didn't make as much, like, overall money. Well, have a look at how much merch you sold. Have a look at how much food vans, how much more the vendors made. So you can probably bring their price down. They've made their profit that they need, so that you can actually charge them less. We can get more vans in there, more options, more people at the track. The mood gets better. The word of mouth gets better. The product gets better. You sell more. Guess who you sell that to? Advertisers.
Exactly. It's not rocket science, eh? And that's why I think all of us are sitting here, quite frustrated because,
How can we all see it and they can't do it? And this is what they do for a job.
Yeah, exactly right. This is their life, and they can't do it, and everyone else can figure it out when they're just sitting there on the sofa at home, and that really does hurt.
Fans can't be wrong because we're the fans, mate. If you think we're wrong and we don't know what we're talking about, well, then you'll be looking for a job. You'll be at Centrelink in like 3 years.
Yeah, exactly right.
We'll be going down to Shannon's rounds. We'll be watching whatever we want to watch because we like car racing. We like watching V8s go around. Look at the Trans Ams and TA2. Big thumping LS motors. The Utes, Super Utes, got themselves a big LS motor now. The racing in those categories is working.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and we've got the option there. So, they've got to stop. Yeah, they've really just got to pull the head in and give us something which is very much in reach.
Start spending the money in the right place. Yes, you're broke because you spent it all in the wrong place to start with, but you're going to have to write that down.
Yeah.
And come back with a better plan moving forward.
Exactly right.
Starts with the calendar. Starts with getting the cars right on the track. Then it starts with the calendar.
Exactly.
And then everything else after that, we can worry about more teams, or we can worry about more cars. But it starts with the cars on the track and the calendar.
Exactly right. And once we got that sorted, then we can start looking at these other things. But that is the essential we need to get on top of now.
Cool. All right, man. Well, we've been going for it's going to have to be a 2-parter. I'm going to break this up into 2 eps because the first one, well, we've been talking for 2 hours. The first thing, we'll talk about like that whole wildcard, your perspective of that whole wildcard journey, and that was a very, very comprehensive and great insight into how it all started with the journey of Richie and Greg and your involvement. So that'll be part 1, and then part 2 is this. This is you and I talking about the category and the sport. So we got your point of view, my point of view. You represent 10,000 fans effectively or you represent inverted commas. You got a crew over there online from the New Zealand side of the page, and I've got the similar crew over here from our side of the page. And everyone's on the same page, mate, whether it's Cuzzies or Aussies. Like we're all saying the same thing.
Exactly right, hey, and that really does say something when we're all from all these different areas and we're all thinking the same. I think
we've all got the same frustrations. We've all got the same hopes, and we all want to see the same things. We want to see it. I think we want to see the same changes as well. Up the top.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but
Exactly. So, it's just for them now to put it in practice and actually, take note about what we're all saying, and then the sport will be in a better position. So
start to
we
grow
can
it
all,
again. We need TC back, but he's not coming back. He's doing world motocross at the moment,
yeah,
unfortunately.
oh, it's a shame, but we need someone of that kind of, character
Vision.
and yeah, vision. Yeah, exactly. And I think if we can get someone like that in,
Yep.
it's sky's the limit. But we definitely who we've got at the moment, what's going on, it's not working.
No,
Something needs to change and and
tails
and you know,
wagging the
and
dog.
yeah, exactly. So fingers crossed, sooner rather than later, we're gonna start getting it back on the right track because we're just slowly on a bit of a downhill at the moment, just with the way everything's been going, and we need to change the direction again and get it
Yeah.
back to where we need to be.
Yep. Yep. Beautiful. All right, buddy. It's been fantastic to catch up again. It's been too long. Um,
Absolutely
can
awesome,
cannot
absolutely
wait. Are you
awesome.
coming over to Bathurst this year? You going to make it over?
At this point, it's not looking too flash,
Yep.
just with everything with work. But I'm hoping to see if I can tee up and come over for something else. So maybe
Adelaide.
Gold Coast or a little bit
Adelaide.
later.
Adelaide. Come to Adelaide.
Yeah, I know. I've really been wanting to come to Adelaide.
Oh
So
well,
so
you can go to Goldie because that's the whole Boost thing. Give Jace a call. It's
well
Boost.
that's it,
It's Boost
and
round. Like
that's it. And I'd love to just like soak up
see if they
the
can
whole
chip in and
atmosphere at the Gold Coast. So
get on the Boost
I'll
whip.
see. Yeah, exactly. We'll see how we go there. They
No
gave
point
me a
having
trip
a phone
last
book
year.
if you don't use it.
Yeah, exactly. They shouted me last year, so I don't know. I'd probably be a bit cunning asking again. So, but
I'll
yeah, we'll
ask.
see how we go, and definitely if I end up on your side of the pond, don't you worry, I'll be singing out, and we'll be getting up to some
Yeah, well,
mischief. So
Adelaide's going to be awesome. See if you can work out Adelaide because apart from the fact that uh, it's 4-day racing event, final of the year, you never know where we're at after the endurance. Like after we finish these next two rounds, then it's two to go. We could be fighting for a championship on Adelaide. Like results.
yeah, exactly,
Because Shane's
exactly,
not
which would
there
just be
locking it up
mental.
with 2 rounds to go. He's not like 2 rounds clear with 2 rounds to go like he has in the last couple of years.
Exactly.
So
So
it's
it'll
coming down to the wire. And we got some awesome concerts on over there. Robbie Williams is playing, and
that's right. That's right.
um, I think it's like Angels and Screaming Jets, and I don't think Chisel are playing this year. No, we got Aussie Rock on one night and Robbie Williams on the Sunday night.
Oh no!
So,
Trust me, I'm sold, mate. Just by knowing about the race, like that's enough to sell me on Adelaide. So, but I'll definitely keep you in the loop, and if I
yeah,
end up
see if you can
venturing
make it
over,
work. Line the
yeah,
ducks up.
venturing over your side, then I'll definitely be singing out, and we can yeah, definitely tee something fun up. But yeah, no, really appreciate you having me on anyway, David, and yeah, always a pleasure to catch up with you, mate. And yeah, definitely, if you ever want to have a yarn again on the potty, then yeah, I'm always only a call away,
Well,
and yeah, no,
the next one, yeah, I'll hold you to that. 100% hold you to that. But the next one won't have to be like a long sort of introduction and history of thing. It's just going to be more of a topical chat about like update.
exactly. So at least yeah, you won't have to get all the popcorn and everything out for a longer one. So that's all right. But no, it's been an enjoyable one. And I think we've covered quite a bit, and it's definitely been a fun time. I've
Yeah, it's
definitely
going to be
enjoyed it.
2 parts. It's definitely going to be 2 parts. So so much for a half-hour chat.
As soon as you said it, I knew that was pretty optimistic. But
Yeah, it's
I
never
thought
going to
I'd
happen.
try. But I did the same thing. I looked at the time not long ago, and I'm going, "Oh, geez, we've done it." So
Yeah.
so yeah, it's all right. We'll try again next time, mate. Second time
Yeah.
lucky.
No, it's all good. Otherwise, if I don't see you this year, I will be seeing you next year at Topor.
100%, 100%.
100%.
Oh, we'll,
100%.
we'll be seeing you, mate. Don't you worry about that. There's many more times to come, and good times, and
You're based in Auckland,
yeah.
aren't you?
Whangarei. So it's couple hours north of Auckland. So it's not too far away.
Cool. You
And
can
and
pick me
yeah.
up on the way through.
Well, that's it. We're heading south. So
I'll
so
let you
there you
know.
go. And
I'll
and
let you
and this
know what
time
time I'm turning up, and then you can take those days off, and we'll go down to Topor, and you can pick me up from the airport.
exactly right, mate. And you'll have a ride this time. Don't you
And
worry
this
about
time,
that.
I
You
guarantee I'm staying
yeah
with you. If
yeah
you're
yeah.
buggering off, I'm coming.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. It's a deal. It's a deal.
It's getting stranded at Topor is going to be a bit more of a logistical problem than Pukekohe, I'm sure.
Yeah. We won't let that happen, mate. We'll have you sorted this time.
I've
Last year was
actually
just a
got a
tester.
room in Topor this time. I've got an actual room there. So um
There
that'll
you go.
sort me out. I
Should
just got to
make
get
life a
back to
bit
Auckland.
easier.
Yeah, 100%. All right, mate. It was great to chat with you again. We will catch up shortly. And we'll just see how the Enduros go. Looking forward to the Enduros. So
Yeah, bring them on. Very, very
go
pumped. And
Erebus,
yeah,
go
let's
Brody, go Will. Have a good weekend this time, Willie. Claw back some of
d-
those points, and
definitely.
yeah, we've got to
And yeah,
keep on the heels of. Actually, might talk to Reynolds. Might talk to Reynolds, see if he can keep doing what he did last race, and just keep knocking out
oh,
Brock
Feeny.
Feeney. Yeah, on the last turn, just keep pumping him out, putting him to the back. We need the team's points.
Yeah, there you go. Help a brother out.
Yeah, that's it. All right,
But
bud.
yeah, really appreciate it, David. Take it easy, and yeah, we'll definitely catch up again soon. And yeah, I'm sure you can have a very fun, rest of your weekend.
Oh yeah, I'm off to the footy. I've got to go now.
Yeah, no worries, but
Uh,
enjoy and yeah, thank you so much for having me on, mate.
sweet,
Anytime.
bro. All right.
Awesome.
We'll chat soon.
Yeah, sounds good, David. And yeah, take it easy and thank you for having me on.
Cheers.
Awesome. Take it easy.